Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. There's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I had two things open. Is it
Okay,
good?
we can hear you perfectly now. Yep.
Okie dokie.
Mr. President, we are ready to begin the meeting.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chicago Board of Education meeting. Today is November 18th, 2020. We are holding today's meeting electronically via Zoom. I'm Miguel del Valle on behalf of my fellow board members. Thank you for joining us today. The regular meeting of Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 is hereby called to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Member Rome,
Here.
Member Melendez,
Here.
Vice President Reveluri.
Here.
Member Todd Breland.
Here.
Member Truss.
Here.
Member Sotelo.
Here.
President Del Valle.
Here.
We have 7 members present. There is a quorum. I would also like to recognize Dr. Janice Jackson, our CEO, Joseph Moriarty, our General Counsel, and I would like to note for the record that he is physically present in the boardroom. Latanya McDade, our Chief Education Officer, Arnie Rivera, our Chief Operating Officer, and Tia Hawthorne, our Honorary Student Board Member. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind those who are tuning in today that LSC elections are taking place at our elementary school level and as well as high schools. And we want to encourage everyone, teachers, students, parents, community residents, to participate in those elections. And please, if you need information, make sure that you contact the board if you have any questions regarding LSC elections. The order of the meeting will be as follows: honoring excellence, CEO remarks, committee updates and announcements, public participation via electronic format, presentations. We'll have 2 presentations. The first will be on school reopening. The second will be on the voluntary closure of Chicago International Charter School, Chicago
Mr.
Quest
President?
Park Campus.
Excuse me if I may interject. The order has switched, so we'll have the CICS presentation first and then the school reopening update.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Then following the presentations, we will have discussion on public agenda items, vote on public agenda items, vote on executive session items, and adjournment. Chief McDade, please proceed with honoring excellence.
Thank you, and good morning, President Del Valle and our entire board. Good morning. We will begin today's Board of Education meeting by honoring our district's largest ever group of National Blue Ribbon schools. Every year, the U.S. Department of Education presents the Blue Ribbon Award to the best schools in the nation. Only 376 schools in the entire country received the honor in 2020. And 6 of them are right here in Chicago Public Schools. Hancock High School received the blue ribbon in the Exemplary Achievement Gap Closing Schools category. And Decatur Classical, Jones College Prep, Leonard Regional Gifted Center, Northside College Prep, and Whitney Young received the blue ribbon in the Exemplary High Performing Schools category. With their combined focus on rigorous academics and social emotional learning, and their commitment to developing students' problem solving, critical thinking, and communication skills, these outstanding schools are succeeding in shaping curious, informed citizens who will be fully prepared for success in college, career, and community. I want to congratulate our 6 Blue Ribbon schools on their achievement and hope that this recognition bolsters the spirit of excellence that is at the heart of what is happening at each of these schools. We are thrilled to have the principals of all of our National Blue Ribbon schools joining us today by phone. I will now invite each of them to share a few words about what this honor means to their school communities. And I will start by inviting our principal from Decatur, Principal Yolanda Luna, to share a few words.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief McDade. I'm Yolanda Luna, principal of Decatur Classical School, the only elementary school in CPS to receive the Blue Ribbon Award this year. I'd like to start by thanking the entire Decatur community, past and present, for their dedication and support. I am proud that we have worked to build a school that is not only high achieving, but student-centered, where our values and process matter as much as our results. Our holistic approach encourages the development of more empathetic, socially aware, and responsible human beings. Decatur's balanced programming goes beyond academics by offering Latin, PE, makerspace, and arts programming to foster a learning environment that allows students to discover their passions and gifts while building resilience. The Decatur community is honored to be named a Blue Ribbon School. This award reflects the tremendous dedication and innovation of our teachers, our students' love of learning, and affirms our shared commitment to persevere in the exploration of learning. Thank you. Now I would like to turn it over to Principal Fuentes Hernandez from Hancock College Prep. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa Fuentes Hernandez. I was a teacher, assistant principal, and now the proud principal of Hancock College Prep High School in the city's southwest side. We are one of the selective enrollment high schools in CPS with 2 career to education programs in both pre-law and pre-engineering. Most of our students who are entering our building are students who live within our community. So we are extremely honored to receive the 2020 Blue Ribbon Award, particularly for closing the achievement gap. 98% of our students are coming from marginalized communities, students of color, and I am just really appreciative of the work that our teachers, our families have done to prioritize our students' education. We work very closely with our families in ensuring that we are supporting not just our students, but families as well as they navigate post-secondary education, and really ensuring that our students are leaving Hancock and able to be successful once they're in those spaces. We have over 25 different clubs and activities, and they range every year because we really believe in student voice. We were the first democracy school. We have an active student council, student social justice committee, and they're constantly pushing us to really reflect on our system so that we can continue to be successful. When I started at Hancock, we were about 37% of our students who were graduating with earned college credit. And now last year, our students, 77% of our graduating seniors graduated from Hancock, earning at least a college credit in one of their courses. And we are extremely proud of not only our students, but all of the hard work that our entire community has done to ensure that we are a successful school. And so with that, I am going to pass it on to my colleague, Principal Joe Powers from Jones College Prep High School.
Thank you very much. This is Dr. Joe Powers, the principal of Jones College Prep. We're very proud of our school. We have been serving the young people of the city of Chicago for 82 years, first as Jones Commercial, and now as Jones College Prep for the last 23 years. Jones is the only downtown CPS high school, and we're very proud not only of our history, but our location. Everything that we do at Jones is predicated on our vision of the ideal Jones graduate at graduation. A student who is intellectually competent, socially skilled and mature, compassionate, socially just and responsible, well-rounded, and holistic. We've grown tremendously over the years. As recently as 10 years ago, we only had 850 students. With the completion of our South Campus building in 2013, we have now grown to almost 2,000 students with a staff of almost 150 educators and support staff. So we're very excited about what we've been able to offer our students and the tremendous success our students have had as they have grown and learned as members of the Jones family. We are also very excited about the opportunities that we face in the future as well. We look forward to expanding our inclusion, our diversity, and our equity, and making certain that all students at Jones College Prep can learn, grow, and thrive as members of our school family. Thank you again very much for recognizing us, and it's my pleasure to turn over the program to Angela Sims, Principal Sims from Leonard Regional Gifted Center. Thank you.
I believe she dropped off the call, Latanya, so if we can continue then with Principal Mest from Northside.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Mest, and this is my 8th year serving as the proud principal of Northside College Prep High School. We are a high school, a selective enrollment high school that has been serving students from all over the city of Chicago since 1999. The National Blue Ribbon Award was a reflection of the hard work and investment of all of the members of our Northside community. That's everything from our faculty and staff, our students, our parents, and our community partners. Participating in this process provided us with a much-needed opportunity for our community and teams to reflect on the work that we've been doing and really highlight what has been working in our community over the last few years. And essentially, that's the many ways that we have had to learn and grow as a community to meet the needs of our current students. That includes everything from ensuring that there is a strong high school transition plan for our 9th graders so they feel welcome from the moment they walk into our building, to utilizing our entire campus as a learning space, including our protected prairie in what we call our backyard and our community gardens, to acknowledging that our students learn in different ways and providing additional experiential learning opportunities through our competency-based education program, Envision, and to being really purposeful in honoring and supporting student voice in various ways. I'm really proud of our entire Northside community, and if given the time, I could speak for hours to our wonderful people and programs, which is what makes Northside special. But I'm grateful for us being honored in this way with the National Blue Ribbon Award. So it's now my pleasure to turn it over to Dr. Joyce Kenner of Whitney Young. Good morning, President.
Principal Kenner, can you please unmute?
Am I now unmuted?
You're good. Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, President DeValier, members of the board, Dr. Jackson, Ms. McDade, and staff. Thank you for recognizing our achievements today. I am Dr. Joyce Kenner. This is my 26th year as principal of Whitney Young and my 31st year at the school. I want to congratulate my fellow peers in their schools. I want to thank our students first and foremost, our faculty, staff, and community, and a special shout out to Dr. Dagny Bloland, who spearheaded the effort to get our application completed. This is the second time Whitney Young has received this award, back in 2009 and now 2020. We have established 4 pillars of focus that our school is defined by, and the reasons why we believe we receive the award. Number 1, respect. We give our teachers the autonomy to teach their subject matter, recognizing their professionalism and their expertise. Integrity, focusing on strong moral and ethical principles and values within our school community, tying this in with everyday work habits. E for empathy. Empathy for students' work, always improving our ability to work with individual students through our MTSS program, not believing in a one-size-all-fit model. R for resilience, facing academic obstacles head-on, providing our struggling students with a writing and math center to help address their academic challenges. We also offer a wide variety of challenging and rigorous courses, including every advanced placement course the College Board offers. And we also continue to nurture a culture of academic commitment and achievement. Thank you again for this recognition. Board members, are there any questions from any of us?
If I may interject, Latanya, we have Principal Sims back on,
Okay.
Principal of Leonard.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction. It's truly an honor to speak to you today, not only as the principal of Leonard Regional Gifted Center, but also as a graduate of Whitney Young High School. Ted Leonard Regional Gifted Center is a kindergarten through 8th grade Chicago public school located on the south side of Chicago, committed to serving a diverse population of underrepresented gifted students from neighborhoods across the city. Leonard strives to be an all-inclusive and collaborative school involving all stakeholders, teachers, parents, students, and community. As a small, close-knit school, we're dedicated to high achievement, driven by culturally responsive teaching and learning. We recognize and value the importance of racial and cultural diversity in our students. We focus on culturally responsive teaching that acknowledges cultural differences as assets, challenges racial and cultural stereotypes, creates caring learning communities, and builds relationships with students and their families. This designation as a 2020 National Blue Ribbon School is a testament to the hard work and dedication of our entire staff, students, and our parents. Despite our present state of learning, we have remained steadfast in our commitment to cultivate our students' agency as learners and world citizens through the implementation of critical pedagogical strategies that allow each student to feel seen and valued. Thank you to the board for this honor.
Okay.
President Del Valle, board members, would you like to address any of the principals?
Well, thank you. I'd like to address all of them. I congratulate all 6 for the wonderful work that they've done and will continue to do. I always get excited when I hear that one of our high school graduates has gone on to become a principal of one of our schools. It shows that we are producing leaders in our system, and that they're coming back and contributing. And that's really the most important thing, is to be able to come back to our system and contribute. This recognition, the National Blue Ribbon Award, is significant. It's significant not just locally, but it's significant nationally. It reminds the entire country that we have excellent schools in the Chicago public school system, and that each year we get better. And I know that down the road we'll be able to increase the number of schools receiving this award. So once again, congratulations to all the principal, the staff, the teachers, the parents, all of those, and of course, the students are the ones that produce and make it possible for this recognition to be bestowed on 6 of our schools. So once again, congratulations, and thank you for your hard work. Board members?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the principals also. I got to admit up front, I got a certain amount of bias. Thank you to Kelly Mess, because she has been a significant influence on the life of my sons, who been both successful because of the hard work that she put in while she was at Lindblom. And I just want to thank her for that. But no less the same thank you to all the other principals, because I'm quite sure you equally was a great influence in the lives of all your students. But it's just that it makes me feel a little bit better, and I'm definitely going to be calling them up and letting them know about your award, Ms. Mess.
President Del Valle?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to, yes, I want to congratulate each and every one of those schools. Their achievement is extraordinary, and I think it represents the diversity in leadership in students and families that make this wonderful recognition possible. So you all do us proud to serve in this board. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Chief McDade.
All right, thank you, President Del Valle. Another hearty congratulations to all of our National Blue Ribbon awardees. Job well done, CPS proud. We will move now into the remarks of the CEDO remarks. Today is the first day of our parent-teacher conferences for our district. As with so many things, this is a year of firsts for all of us. And I want to thank our educators and families for working together to make these virtual conferences possible. Family involvement has been even more crucial to our students' success while they are learning at home. And our parents and guardians have done an outstanding job helping their children get connected and stay on track. I know how eager our families are to see their children returning to some level of normalcy. And for many students, this includes participating in sports. We hope to be able to continue our winter sports season at some point. However, beginning Friday, November 20th, Illinois will move to Tier 3 of the Restore Illinois Mitigation Plan to slow the spread of COVID-19. While schools can continue to operate because they play an essential role in the lives of students and families and are not a significant source of viral transmission, high school sports, including practices and competitions, will be paused until further notice. As Dr. Ezike said yesterday, there are no easy answers here, and we are disappointed for our student athletes, but we all have a role to play to protect Chicago and keep our community safe. We hope to resume sports as soon as possible. Finally, today, I want to let everyone know about an important step forward CPS has taken with regard to our literacy curriculum. Earlier this week, we officially launched our pre-K-12 vision for advanced literacy. And I want to thank all board members who had an opportunity to participate in our advanced literacy launch. This is a new approach to ensuring that our students will graduate with the literacy skills needed to succeed in college, career, and civic life. The stakes for this new vision could not be higher because literacy is the gateway to opportunity for our youth. How well a child is reading by third grade strongly predicts how successful they will be academically, and even whether or not they will graduate from high school on time. Adults with advanced literacy skills are more likely to attend college, get higher paying jobs, own homes, and be in better health. And research consistently shows that reading comprehension is among the top skills needed across all jobs in the U.S. economy, even those that require no education or training beyond high school. Our vision for advanced literacy was created with all of this in mind. It gives every CPS student access to diverse texts filled with cultures and characters from around the world. These texts inspire lively discussions and encourage students to think, talk, and write about the topics and ideas that are most important to them. And to ensure our children can communicate successfully in a digital 21st century environment, the formats of these texts will range from traditional print to audiobooks, podcasts, and visual media. We are living in a global, complex, and constantly changing society that will demand more from our students than a basic grasp of literacy can provide. I want to thank the educators and partners who work together to prepare them for this reality and look forward to watching our vision for advanced literacy become the norm in Chicago Public Schools. Mr. President, this concludes my prepared remarks.
Thank you, Chief McDade. We'll now proceed to CEO remarks. Dr. Jackson, we're ready for your remarks.
Yes, thank you and good morning, President Del Valle and board members. I do want to just thank the literacy team and the entire teaching and learning department for the successful launch of the literacy plan for Chicago Public Schools that Chief McDade just highlighted. We're so thrilled that we've been able to continuously move along this strategic work, despite many of the challenges that we face as a school system every single day. I also want to give a shout out to all of the principals who were featured today, the Blue Ribbon Schools. It's such an honor to really lift up Chicago Public Schools and share the progress on the national stage. So just want to say congratulations to them and thank all of their staff members that worked hard to put those applications together. The next 2 days are extremely important for the Chicago Public Schools community. As you pointed out in your introductory remarks, we started in-person LSC voting today, and that will happen at our elementary schools and tomorrow at our high schools in concert with our parent-teacher conferences, which will be all virtual this school year. It's also important to note that we will be mailing home all of the report cards to our students as well if they are unable to participate in virtual conferences, because we think it's critically important that parents and students are kept abreast of their child's progress. And later in this presentation, you're going to hear from Chief McDade about the data that we've seen related to Q1 grades and what that means for our children. I want to remind folks that in-person voting for LSCs will take place all day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. today and tomorrow. And I encourage people to vote and participate in this process. We had a record number of people running, which is extremely exciting given the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I hope that we'll be able to report that we will have a record number of people participating in the process. We have listened to the feedback that we received from community stakeholders and advocates. Mail-in ballots will be accepted through November 30th, which was originally only supposed to be until the evening of the vote. We extended that a couple of weeks based on that feedback. We also put several systems in place to ensure that voting could be done safely. Just to reiterate, this is not a typical school year. So curbside voting was instituted to make sure that people felt comfortable voting in person. Community members who wish to vote in person, we do ask that they wear face coverings and do proper social distancing while in our buildings. And they will also complete a symptom and temperature screening before they are allowed in our buildings. We think all of these measures collectively will create safe environments for our communities to come out and participate in this process. The next update that I'd like to share is an update coming on the heels of our discussions around the role of school resource officers in our school and the push from the board to create overall safety plans for our schools. We're grateful that we've received so much feedback from so many of our stakeholders, our students, our teachers, parents, board members, et cetera. We're now able to take this plan to the next level. So what we're intending to do is to work with each individual school, which we believe is our job, to make sure that people feel safe, valued, and supported. In order to do this successfully, we need feedback from our communities, and we believe that the best way to obtain that feedback is to really harness the expertise of many of our community-based organizations. So we announced this last week, but I want to make sure most people, in case people miss this, we're inviting community-based organizations to directly support students and school communities to create these safety plans. These CBOs will host conversations with community members over the next few months where they will be able to share ideas around how to create safe environments in our schools. When these conversations are complete, a steering committee will consider all of the ideas that have been generated and present a menu of school safety options to the Board of Education next spring. Community organizations interested in being a part of this team should visit the CPS website, which is cps.edu/whole school safety plan to apply. The deadline for this application is also Monday, November 30th. And again, we encourage our community-based organizations to apply to support us as we try to garner more support and input from our community members. Finally, I want to, before I talk about our reopening plans, which were announced yesterday, I would like to touch on a few changes that CPS is making in light of the city's current stay-at-home advisory. We have school-based employees that have been reporting to our schools since the beginning of this pandemic. These people are frontline workers. They've been in our building supporting remote learning, distributing devices, feeding students, working on technology issues throughout this process. And they've done an amazing job helping us to continue learning despite many of the challenges. One of the things that we are changing is around administrator coverage, listening to principal feedback. One school administrator will still be responsible per ISB's guidance to come to school every day. And principals, so they can rotate between principals and assistant principals. If there is a school that does not have an assistant principal or a resident principal to cover in their stead, the school system and the school district, and the network offices will work directly with those schools to provide coverage so that they do have some break and an opportunity to work from home a couple of days a week. In addition, we also have made changes to our guidance around in-person obligations for school clerks, clerk assistants, and technology coordinators. They may now work 3 days in person and 2 days remotely each week during the stay-at-home advisory. These flexible schedules will continue until students and staff begin returning for in-person learning. One of the things that I wanted to make clear is that this plan that we put out for school reopening has been the most comprehensive, in my opinion, and also we provided the most notice of any announcement, which are the two things that we heard loud and clear from our stakeholders. They wanted to know what we were doing sooner, and they wanted to know how are we being guided by the science and what does that mean? So following the guidance of our public health experts, we do plan to open our schools back to pre-K students and students enrolled in moderate and intensive cluster programs beginning Monday, January 11th. Students in kindergarten through 8th grade will be welcomed back to their buildings 3 weeks later on Monday, February 1st. High schools will remain remote until further notice. We all know that COVID is an incredibly serious threat. And the public health data has shown us that when we put in the proper mitigating strategies and protocols, that schools are rarely a source of transmission. But we are concerned and we are paying attention to the science, and we will continue to use that to guide our decision making. But we cannot shirk our responsibilities. We have a moral obligation to make sure that our kids are being educated. We shared at the last board meeting some troubling statistics around what is happening in our schools. Right now, we know that pre-K enrollment is down 29% amongst Latinx students, and it's down 44% amongst African-American students. And many of our diverse learner students who are enrolled in cluster programs who would normally be receiving intensive therapeutic services at school are not getting that support in a remote environment, thus placing a heavy burden on many of our families. This is a matter of equity, and it's at the core of everything that we do in Chicago Public Schools. The shift here is allowing for multiple options for all of our parents. Any parent who wants to remain in a remote environment will have the ability to do so. But beginning in January, those parents who need an opportunity or an option for their students to be educated in person will now have a choice. Next week, we will begin reaching out to families via text message and email to understand their plans as to whether or not their kids will be rejoining us for in-person learning. We want to encourage families to complete this process. It's going to be a bigger lift than the one a couple of weeks ago, because we will be sending this out to our pre-K and cluster parents if people want to change what they indicated a couple of weeks ago. And we're also going to be sending it out for the first time since the summer to our K through 8 parents. So I want to encourage all of our parents listening to complete that immediately, but to also work with your friends and family and encourage folks to weigh in and let us know what their decisions will be. It's my opinion that the best thing that we can do is bring our kids back to the classroom at the beginning of the school year. But this will be largely dependent on the behavior of all of us throughout this city over the next 2 months. I want to encourage everyone to follow the guidance that has been outlined in the city stay-at-home order in order to make sure that we can bend the curve and make sure that the community spread is under control so we can get back to what I think is the most important service we provide in this city, which is educating our kids in person. So what does that mean? That means we must wear a mask, social distance, wash our hands frequently. We have to revise our Thanksgiving plans. We have to revise travel plans. And I know that this is hard to hear and difficult for many people, but given the way that the pandemic is going, we cannot at this time let our guards down. After all, it is our responsibility to make sure that our kids benefit from the education that they deserve. I want to thank everybody that has weighed in this process. I know it's incredibly trying at times. We've tried to make the best decisions and communicate them as quickly as possible. I want to thank you for continuing to be engaged, and I look forward to seeing our students back in school at the start of the school year. President Del Valle, this concludes my prepared remarks.
Thank you. We'll entertain some questions or comments from board members at this time for Dr. Jackson and for Chief McDade. On the reopening, we do have a report ahead of us. And so there'll be another opportunity to ask questions and make comments. Board members, any
President Del Valle?
comments? Yes, Member Todd Breland.
Yeah, I know reopening is coming later. I just wanted to thank Dr. Jackson for her comments in particular about LSC elections, and just kind of reiterate how important getting out to vote in those LSC elections are. As a former LSC member myself, I've actually been really excited to see such excitement around the city about LSC elections. I've seen campaign materials from schools I've never seen campaign materials from before. And that's really exciting. And I just want to reinforce, local school councils are elected positions. You will be an elected official. You are electing officials to govern and make decisions at your school. They are the most racially representative and socioeconomically representative bodies in our entire ecosystem of electoral politics. And so I really encourage folks to get out and vote. I will be voting in my community this afternoon, and I hope that other people plan to as well. And a thank you, of course, to everyone in Office of Local School Council Relations, the FACE team, but also our community-based partners who have really been pounding the pavement, activists, organizers, to get people to run. And I think part of the excitement we started to see and sort of surge around this was over the summer, but it's continued through the fall, and it's exciting to see that in action. So I really encourage folks to vote.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments at this point? Okay, well, thank you. Yes, thank you. Committee updates. There are no committee updates at this time for this month. Please use our website, cpsboe.org, if you need to seek assistance or want to meet with a board member during office hours, and those meetings are virtual meetings. We encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to meet with board members outside of the board meeting. Madam Secretary, please share the details of the next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. Advanced registration will open at 10:30 on Monday, December 14th, 2020, and will close on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. or until all slots are filled, whichever is first. If anyone has any questions about this process, please contact the board office for our assistance. And I would like to note for the record that we will announce if the board meeting will be in person or virtual via our website. Please monitor the cpsboe.org website for more information. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Let's now proceed with today's public participation session. As a reminder, union representatives will speak before public participation, and any elected officials will speak after the conclusion of public participation. Madam Secretary, please share the rules of public participation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the public who registered to speak were given information to access this meeting by dialing a number and using their phone. We did this so that speakers with limited or no access to internet or who may have weak internet connection could still participate using their phones. Also, members of the public may submit written comments for Board of Education meetings via the written comments form on the board's website at www.cpsboe.org or mailed to 1 North Dearborn Suite 950. Written comments received between the day the public agenda was posted through 5 p.m. the day after the Board of Education meeting will be submitted to the board and published within 5 business days on our website at www.cpsboe.org. Speakers, please listen while I provide directions for public participation. In order to facilitate and expedite public participation, I will be calling speakers out of order and grouping them. I will call your name and number when it is your turn to speak. Once you hear your name, please state your name for the record, and we will then start the 2-minute timer. When there are 30 seconds remaining, I will inform you so that you can proceed to conclude your remarks to allow for the next speaker to begin. And Mr. President, before we begin with the actual speakers list, we do have union reps who will address the board, as well as the Troy Revere from the Chicago Principals and Administrators Association. So our first speaker will be Crystal Williams Hayes, the CTU Recording Secretary, followed by Chris Bayron, the CTU Chair Division Chair, and then the Charter Division Chair, and then Troy Revere, the CPAA President. Ms. Hayes.
Good morning, everyone. First, I want to acknowledge the parents, students, and neighborhood residents who are fighting to keep 3 schools in North Lawndale open. The mayor who appointed you said that she would end the racist pattern of closing schools. Well, you can start by agreeing to end your effort to shutter these critical neighborhood schools that have not recovered from previous closing. This mayor and this district talk about equity, but where is the equity for the Black and brown workers who are needlessly working, forcing themselves to work in person? At the same time, the mayor is telling Chicagoans to shelter in place. I'll say what Stacey said yesterday. We can find the need for equity during a pandemic, but we can't find it for the West Side, which only has 4 school libraries, or for predominantly Black schools and communities, which are chronically underfunded and under-resourced compared to others. That's wrong. Stop starving and stop denying these schools the resources they deserve and build them back up after decades of devastating disinvestment. I would also like to acknowledge and celebrate today is the statewide PSRP Day. Thank you all to all PSRPs for your dedication and for all you do. I'd like to open with a few questions. Why are you planning to reopen in the middle of a COVID surge? How do you justify keeping school clerks and tech coordinators, the majority of whom are Black and Latinx women, working in schools with positivity rate for COVID is already exploding, and these women hail from the very communities already bearing the brunt of illness and death from this pandemic? Why do you say that hundreds of school workers in more than 140 schools who have been infected with COVID-19 since the school started this year? And now you unilaterally pick a date to reopen, not because the science says so, but because you want to. You insist on setting a reopening date after you canceled a scheduled bargaining meeting on yesterday, where there would have been an opportunity to discuss this discussion, even though the COVID rate is close to 2,400 cases per day, nearly 6 times higher than your remote learning cutoff of 400 per day in July. Since the mayor of Chicago Public Schools ordered school clerks, technology workers, security guards, and other workers back into largely empty buildings this fall, more than 150 schools have reported COVID cases. Clerks, principals, assistant principals, and lunch staff have become infected with this virus. Multiple families have contracted the virus, and at least 1 teacher and security officer have died. These aren't random statistics on an accountant spreadsheet. These are living, breathing, dedicated workers who don't want to have to choose between their lives and their livelihood. For weeks, instead of you've issued poorly enforced school safety protocols and remote learning plans that parents and students describe as inhumane and inadequate. For weeks, you have also been ignoring the Biden arbitration decision to allow clerks and tech coordinators to work remotely 4 days a week, at the same time that you refuse to formally bargain with the union as you continue to defy and insist that they work in person 3 days. I received calls from clerks with fear of being retaliated against from the very principles that they have been dedicated to day in and day out, with threats of not paying them for honoring the rule and standing up for their right to decide to work safely. The intimidation tactics on the most vulnerable and dedicated workers is disgraceful and a shameful representation of the school board that claims to operate with empathy and grace. Where's the science that allows you to show schools will be safe on January the 4th when they are not safe today? Only people like Donald Trump and apparently Mayor Lightfoot are calling schools to reopen while this virus is surging. While CPS has said schools are safe to reopen, no study to date has explained reopening schools in a city like Chicago, where students frequently live in multi-generational families that rely on public transportation, confront high levels of poverty with individuals who are essential workers already at high risk for COVID-19. We know CPS can't prove their ventilation systems are safe, and yet the mayor insists on pushing us into this cruel and dangerous experiment. That's not equity, that's a death sentence. This mayor said that she will lead during the pandemic with empathy and science, but returning thousands of people to schools as COVID rages is far from empathetic, and the science is unclear. And now, where this unilateral plan is empathy and science, we need to reopen safely. Do better, CPS. Our lives have value. Our students and their families, their lives have value. Act like it. Prove your ventilation systems are up to handling the virus. Bargain with our union so we can open safely and put the lives of our workers and students and families we serve ahead of political decisions that will only needlessly put people at risk and needlessly cost more lives. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Thank you for your comments. Mr. President, we'll proceed with the next speaker. Chris Bayron, please, the CTU Charter Division Chair. Mr. Bayron?
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please proceed.
Great. President Del Valle, board members, CEO Jackson, others on the call, good morning. I hope you're well. I have two brief comments. First, I need to echo my union sister secretary, William Hayes, with a cautionary tale. I spoke to this board over the summer about Namaste Charter School, where they brought back students for summer school, didn't announce this to the union or negotiate with us as they were legally required to. And it was a disaster for students. The learning didn't happen. The social aspects didn't happen. And they were ignoring the science. Well, this is continues to be a cautionary tale because Namaste continues to ignore the science, and they are now the most recent charter school that we know of with positive COVID-19 cases. The school has essentially been open for daycare each day. They declare themselves a safe haven, but just declaring safety doesn't make it happen. The same way declaring equity doesn't make it so. The operator there tried to keep the outbreak secret, only notifying those who worked most closely with the people who tested positive. This is not the right time and the right direction to go. Please follow CDC guidelines about school reopening, and let's get this pandemic, the community spread down before we send adults into these schools. And then I also want to mention, I brought this up that at Acero, they eliminated 26 special education paraprofessional positions. At the start of the year, they're not claiming that it's a budget cut issue. This has also caused knock-on effects because of the way the layoffs have happened. It means that we have reduced capacity in that network to provide bilingual services, which we're out of compliance on. So we need more special education and bilingual services, not less. There's no budget cuts. I don't know what to call this, but racist underfunding that's affecting our most vulnerable students and reducing our most critical staff. These are all populations of color. Again, I plead with this board to exercise some oversight over charter schools. We've seen what the president's lack of oversight over the response to the pandemic has led to, where we've been more safe, like in Chicago than other places, or New York, where incidence is creeping up because there hasn't been oversight. So please exercise some oversight during this pandemic, particularly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bayron. Mr. President, we'll proceed with the next speaker, please. Troy LaRiviere, the CPAA president.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes, you can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, beautiful people. District management has once again concocted a skeletal plan to reopen schools. They contrived this plan without the presence or participation of the teachers, support staff, engineers, and principals who have to implement that plan. It's as if you're purposefully trying to create a plan that has the worst likelihood of succeeding by trying to create it without the people who are critical to its success. Can you imagine a hospital trying to figure out how to operate during COVID without the input of doctors and nurses? Or an Army base trying to figure out how it's going to operate or reopen without the input of squad and platoon leaders and the company commanders? Even the NBA had enough sense to bring the players union in to create a plan that led to the successful resumption of their season. No matter what the field, the people on the ground will bring insights into the planning table that will keep everyone safer. CPS management is ignoring this fundamental planning principle at the expense of the staff and students who will suffer because of your arrogance. Your planning process and poor oversight of the district is so inadequate that you can't even hold a proper citywide LSC election during this pandemic. So how in the world can we trust you to even contrive a viable plan to reopen schools, let alone execute one? While many many schools will be able to pull off a successful election, principals have informed me that some schools don't even have election coordinators, election judges, or election security because of COVID concerns. But district management isn't even collecting the data that would give them an overall sense of the schools where it is unfeasible to hold and execute an election with enough integrity that the results could be trusted. Instead, they're telling principals to just, quote unquote, make it work, without the slightest bit of support that will enable them to do so. Do you have any idea how much frustration, anxiety, and stress you're creating? Your stress-inducing management style is applicable to nearly every area of operations, not just LSC elections. To add insult to injury, management had the nerve to tell principals and assistant principals during a webinar yesterday to, quote unquote, take care of yourselves. Then you said that you'll be sending principals some so-called well-being resources. Let's make this clear. Based on what administrators tell us, the biggest threat to the well-being of principals and assistant principals is you. More specifically, the biggest threat to their well-being is the uninformed, cavalier, top-down, tone-deaf, unilateral, disconnected manner in which CPS management runs this district, or more accurately, fails to run this district, fails to get principals the support and resources they need, and then leaves them to try and make it work in the wake of your failure. Listen to what the CEO said during yesterday's meeting with principals, and I'm quoting her here. We want to communicate reopening plans to principals as early as possible, but there are challenges embedded in sharing information with principals because we want that information to remain confidential until it's appropriate to share. Unfortunately, it's shared before we can get our message out, and that kind of puts us at a disadvantage. Can you hear yourself? What in the world needs to be confidential about the planning to reopen schools? You're talking about reopening schools as if it's a media messaging event where you have to get a one-up on public opinion, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to bring the necessary parties together to plan it correctly and get it right. And that is why you fail. We want to get our students in classrooms with the services they need, but we want to get it right. But every reopening plan you've had since March has failed. You failed our students, our communities, our staff, and you failed us. And in conclusion, you will continue to increase the likelihood of failure so long as you fail to recognize that the collective minds of medical professionals, along with staff, teachers, engineers, and principals, are far more brilliant than the minds you've had at the planning table so far. So you need to invite them into the planning process to harness that brilliance for the benefit of us all. That concludes my statement. Does any member of the board have any questions or concerns in regard to the concerns expressed by the principals and assistant principals who lead your schools?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll proceed then with the speakers list, and we'll begin with speaker number 1, Jen Harth, followed by speaker number 15, Colleen Collins. Ms. Harth? Ms. Harth, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, good morning.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Harth. I'm the very proud school director of CICS Prairie, a K-8 school on Chicago's South Side. We serve a community of 430 scholars with a demographic of nearly 50% Latinx and 50% African American students. More than 90% of our community qualifies for free and reduced lunch. At this time, we have over 100 students on our waiting list. Our kindergarten class this year consists entirely of younger siblings of current students. We still have additional siblings of current students on the waiting list, with parents and families anxious to have their children attend CICS Prairie. Our families know they can count on our school to provide consistency for their children and a high quality, deeply supportive education. Because of this, there is a high demand for our Southside school. Over the last several years, we have consistently had more than 100 students on a wait list, representative of families that are seeking a high quality, inclusive education for their children, who we have to turn away because we have reached our enrollment cap, even though we have space in our building when we are in person to accommodate more students. Please consider CICS's request to reallocate 30 seats from CICS Chicago Quest to CICS Prairie and other high quality, in-demand campuses within the CICS network. These seats represent just a portion of the total seats available after the closure of CICS Chicago Quest. We have the space, desire, and demand to educate more students at CICS Prairie. We feel compelled to do everything we can to meet this demand from the families in our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Harth. Mr. President, we'll continue then with Colleen Collins, speaker number 15, followed by Stacy Freeman, speaker number 2, and then Maria Patton, speaker number 3. Ms. Collins?
Hello, good morning.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Colleen Collins, and I am the incredibly proud director of CICS West Belden. CICS West Belden is a K-8 school in Chicago's Belmont-Cragen neighborhood. We serve 548 curious, hardworking students. At CICS West Belden, we balance personalized learning strategies with strong curricular approaches and social emotional learning to encourage student success and growth. Our families know that they can count on CICS West Belden to educate their children in many ways. Year after year, we have a waiting list of families who want to be part of our innovative, supportive school environment. Today, we have over 100 students on our waiting list, 100 students and their families who are eager to be part of our community and who we would love to serve. We have to turn away families every year because we have reached our enrollment cap. However, we have the space in our building to accommodate additional students. Please consider CICS's request to reallocate 30 seats from CICS Chicago Quest to CICS West Belden and other high-quality, in-demand campuses within the CICS network. We have the ability and the demand to provide more students with the quality education they so deserve at CICS West Belden. We can meet this demand and provide opportunities for additional families at CICS West Belden with your support. Thank you for your consideration.
Ms. Collins, thank you for your comments. We'll proceed with the next speaker, Mr. President. Stacy Freeman, please. Ms. Freeman, you can proceed. Ms. Freeman, you can unmute and proceed.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stacy Freeman. I'm a married mother of 3 boys that attend LEARN's Hunter Perkins campus, which you may already know is a level 1+ school. What I really like about Hunter Perkins is that safety and a quality education go hand in hand. Hunter Perkins has always been my family's choice for an elementary school. All three of my boys started at kindergarten. In fact, my straight A 8th grader has always excelled and is now eligible to attend his top choice of high schools in Chicago. My middle son, who is a kinesthetic learner, is also doing well at Hunter Perkins campus. With a customized 504 plan, he is allowed additional testing time, one-on-one tutoring, and weekly meetings with a social worker to help him stay on track. Even in this crazy year of dealing with COVID, Learn once again has rose to the occasion in keeping my family safe, keeping all families safe while providing a quality education. While in our remote state, each child received a highly monitored Chromebook and is easily swapped out when the unit becomes inoperable. The families and staff continue open communication via Class Dojo, and my middle son's social work can continue via meetups online.
Ms. Freeman, you have 30 seconds.
My youngest son, thank you. My youngest son, his education, he's in 2nd grade. His education is not only informative, but also his classroom is kept fun. Lastly, I want to say that I hope that the board renews Hunter Perkins campus this time around. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Thank you for your comments. We'll proceed with the next speaker, Mariah Patton, speaker number 3, followed by speaker number 5, Siobhan Coleman. Ms. Patton? Ms. Patton, you can unmute and proceed.
Wait, can you hear me?
Ms. Patton, yes, you can proceed.
All right. Hi, my name is Mariah Patton. I go to Lawndale Community Academy and I am in 7th grade. I'm here to talk about how we shouldn't close the schools. I believe we shouldn't close them for many different reasons. One is transportation, and also moving schools causes stress for parents and students. I know this because I've experienced it before when they shut down my school in kindergarten and I had to restart another school. It was stressful for my parents and me. Another thing is we already have a STEM program, so I don't really understand why they're making another school for something we already have. So once again, I believe we shouldn't close down schools. If anything, they should fund the schools more. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. President, we'll proceed then with speaker number 5, Siobhan Coleman, followed by speaker number 16, Willie Cousins. Siobhan Coleman?
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Ms. Coleman, please proceed.
Again, my name is Siobhan Coleman. I'm a parent of 2 CPS students. I'm a pre-K teacher assistant, and I currently serve on the LSC at Lawndale Community Academy. We, the LSC of Lawndale Community Academy, strongly oppose the closing of 3 schools, Lawndale, Sumner, and Crown Academies, and consolidation in North Lawndale. It is not safe. It is inequitable. It has not included the real stakeholders of the North Lawndale community, and it is an attack on our Black and Brown children. We have sat through a few meetings to see the proposed plan. However, we feel omitted. The community was not at the table during the proposals process. The individuals who will be directly impacted should this proposal become reality have not been consulted. It is imperative that families and staff of the 3 proposed schools have a fair chance to voice their opinions and express what they think is best for the community in which they reside. There are concerns about the location of the proposed STEAM school. There are concerns about safety and violence, concerns about unaffordable housing, concerns about equity. There are concerns about disinvestment in the 3 existing schools. There are concerns about the miseducation and misinformation of the proposal, concerns of racial and social injustice, and a new school is not the solution to addressing these issues. Consolidation is not the solution to addressing these issues. It did not work in Inglewood, and it will not work in North Lawndale.
Ms. Coleman,
We're
you
in the
have
midst
30 seconds.
We're in the midst of a fatal pandemic, and the organizers, made up of parents, community partners, staff, and students, are outside knocking on doors and informing North Lawndale residents of a proposal that appeared to be a secret until recently. And that is something that the NLCCC and the NLCAC had failed to do. If the intent of the proposal is community driven, then we, the community, humbly ask that the aforementioned organizations have a seat at the table with the individuals who will be directly affected by the said proposal. We deserve the right to say what we need. We, the community, is asking the Board of Education, please do not vote to move the proposal forward until an agreement is equitable for both sides. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be blessed.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Our next speaker, Mr. President, is speaker number 16, Willie Cousins, followed by speaker number 20, Sharday Rogers. Mr. Cousins? Mr. Cousins, if you can please unmute.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Willie Cousins. I am a parent speaking out against the North Lawndale Coordinating Council's proposal to close, consolidate, merge, because it's all the same thing, Crown, Sumner, and North Lawndale. This is a continuation of a disinvestment in the west side of Chicago, in the North Lawndale community. It's a disinvestment in our children. And we continue to see the disinvestment through housing. We have no grocery stores in our communities. We have to go outside of our communities. This proposal was not brought to neither 3 schools to show us the plan. They did not coordinate with the schools. They did not coordinate with the administration, the community, and the parents or the students. The students are going to be greatly impacted by this. And so I call on the board and Chicago Public Schools to not support this proposal. This proposal is inadequate, and I ask that you all work with us, the North Lawndale Parent and Community Coalition, for a community-driven proposal to invest in these 3 existing schools. These schools have been disinvested in on purpose. That is why we are seeing the under-enrollment in these schools. That's why we're seeing our
Mr.
parents
Cousins,
leave the communities.
you
Yes,
have 30
thank you.
seconds. Thank you.
So I ask again to work with us. Work with the teachers in these schools. Work with the administration. Work with the parents and the wider community to really bring change to these schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cousins. The next speaker, Mr. President, is speaker number 20, please, Sharday Rogers, followed by speaker 21, Elizabeth Van Opstal. Ms. Rogers? Ms. Rogers? Can you please unmute and proceed?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Rogers, please proceed.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sharday Rogers, and I currently live in the North Lawndale community, and been living in the North Lawndale community all my life. I'm a parent of 4 students who currently attend Lawndale Academy. I have a 6th grader, a 4th grader, a 1st grader, and a preschooler. And I'm here to speak about the STEM school that I heard about, and I'm against it. An issue that I have with the STEM school is I don't like how they're trying to close the 3 neighborhood schools, Lawndale, Crown, and Sumner. I think instead of trying to close the schools, that we should get help and get invested in our schools that we already have. Another issue that I don't like about the STEM school is that I did some research myself, and I found out that the STEM schools does not cater to kids that have special education needs. And that's a big issue for me because I'm a parent. I have a student that has special education needs. And that's telling me that my child won't have a seat in the STEM school, and I think that's a big issue. He's currently at Lawndale now, where we have staff members that help my child and doing everything that they can to help him achieve on the level that he should be on. I feel instead of closing the 3 community schools down, why not invest in us and help us work better instead of tearing us down and splitting these kids up and having them go to different communities, which is not safe. I think that you all should not vote on the proposal that's being made to close our schools. Instead, just help us to become better because we have potential to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker, Mr. President, is speaker 21, please, Elizabeth Van Opstal, followed by speaker number 29, Melandria Watts. Ms. Opstal?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Van Opstal. I'm the proud mother of 3 CPS children who attend National Teachers Academy. I am an internal medicine and pediatric physician, and I work in the hospital medicine. The last few months, I've spent my time caring for patients with COVID on inpatient floors, and it's been awful, devastating. My own family members have been sick with this devastating illness as well. I'm here today to speak as an ally on behalf of the students and families of Lawndale who are facing school closures. My request is very simple. Stop all discussions of closing these schools in the midst of a horrendous pandemic. This is not the time, and hopefully it never will be. Personally, I know the struggles of having your homeschool almost closed, as National Teachers Academy almost was. It is incredibly stressful and can be very traumatic for children, their families, and school staff. I saw this firsthand as we fought side by side with students from Englewood in our own community. Families should not have to undergo this additional trauma when they're already suffering from the devastating loss of COVID. How can you truly organize, show up to countless meetings, protest, do all the things that we had to do when you're worried about your loved one who maybe just died of COVID or has been sick, or your community has many people who've lost jobs? The Lawndale community has already struggled from the effects of structural racism, and COVID-19 is just another example of this. Don't make families fight for the educational and community stability found in their home school during a time when our entire country, but especially majority Black and Latino neighborhoods,
Ms.
are bearing
Opstal?
the brunt. Yes?
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, of this tragic disease. In one zip code in Lawndale, for example, there have already been 6,000 cases of COVID. Multiple studies support that when schools close, there are major negative academic impacts on children. Math scores can lag for 4 seconds. This is in normal times. Now apply this to COVID times. As a pediatrician and a mother, we know that these are adverse childhood events, and they will have long-term health effects on children. Stop this plan. Treat the families of Lawndale with the respect due. Create genuine opportunities for family and staff input that have historically been demonstrated in prior school closings, have not been demonstrated, while those most involved seem to be an afterthought. You have a choice to make the right choice.
Thank you, Ms. Opstal. Thank you for your comments. We'll proceed with the next speaker, Mr. President. Speaker number 29, Melandria Watts, followed by speaker number 9, Sunny Parker. Ms. Watts? Ms. Watts, if you can please unmute and proceed.
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Watts, please proceed.
Hello, hi, my name is Melandria Watts. I currently serve in the Lawndale community at Lawndale Community Academy. I'm a parent, an educator, and a mentor. I host a girls mentor program there at Lawndale Community Academy, where we service and do community service around the area. Lawndale Community Academy is a resource, and I stand here today to oppose and do not support the proposal to close our schools. I believe that you are taking jobs from teachers and you're taking a school from students. The proposal says that we're providing resources, and really we're taking the resources away. Lawndale Community Academy has been a resource for years and years, servicing students in a way that no one else can. I believe that when you close these schools, that you are going to overwhelm our children, especially in the middle of a pandemic. It's going to be overwhelming. To find out this news in such short notice is very hurtful, is very unexpected, and I believe that we should be having a seat at the table of where we're discussing this proposal to discuss the resources that are provided for our babies and our kids. Nobody, when you take away the teachers from these students, this is their sense of normalcy. COVID is going around, and we're going to take away the normalcy that they have by taking away these teachers that go above and beyond every single day. Lawndale Community Academy has always been a family. For the years that I've been staffed at Lawndale Community Academy, when I first started as a community advocate, it was a family. These babies had teachers that go above and beyond. They make sure they go home with hot
Ms.
meals.
Watts.
They know their students, they know their staff. Thank you. They know their students, they know their staff. These kids can depend on them. When things are going on with COVID, when you don't have those relationships come from the community, the schools. We don't have community centers there on the west side. Those schools service as the community centers. We go above and beyond and make sure students have clothes when they don't have them, food when they don't have it. And then for you to sit up there and close those schools, it really is disheartening as a parent and as an educator and as a mentor. We are opposed to it, and we're asking as a board that you sit back and you reevaluate what is being proposed in front of you, and we sit down as a team, as a unit, and decide where and how to allocate the money that's moving forward. And I ask that you have a blessed day in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. Thank you for your comments. Mr. President, we'll proceed with the next speaker then. Sunny Parker, please. Speaker number 9, followed by speaker number 14, Cassandra Slaughter. Sunny Parker, please. Can you please unmute? Sunny Parker?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed, Mr. Parker.
Yes, this is Sonny Parker, Sonny Parker Youth Foundation. I'm born and raised here at Lawndale. I went to Crown School when it first opened. I'm very concerned about the safety of a lot of our kids that, you know, trying to go to different schools in the neighborhood. All my relatives and friends, we all went to Crown School. It really prepared me academically. It also prepared me athletically. You know, I played for the Golden State Warriors. But anyway, I was prepared academically to go to college. I'm very concerned about the closing of the schools in the community because of safety issues. School was built in the early 60s, 1960s, and I left there in 1966 to go to another school, which was really hard for me to travel to and from, but I'm very supportive of the community there that support to have the school to stay open because there's so much history, so much tradition. You know, I love my teacher, love my coaches, and you know, I was able to be prepared in life, and anything that I can do to help, and it's just been a part of my growth and development as a person, and I'm here to support Save Our Schools in Lawndale, Crown, and Sumner. Thanks for having me, and appreciate everything the community has done for me in my personal life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Moving on to the next speaker, Mr. President, we have Cassandra Slaughter, speaker number 14, followed by speaker number 17, Tasha Dudley. Ms. Slaughter? Ms. Slaughter, if you can please unmute and proceed. Ms. Slaughter, can you please unmute?
Okay, hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. You can proceed. Thank you.
All right, how you doing? My name is Cassandra Slaughter. My daughter currently attends Crown Community Academy. I'm honestly in disbelief to be hearing about school closures in the middle of a pandemic. My daughter has struggled mentally with e-learning, and now to hear of a possible school closure brought tears to her eyes. She recently released a book titled COVID-19, A Child's Worst Nightmare, where she expresses her thoughts, emotions, and challenges that she and her peers have faced during this pandemic. My oldest child recently graduated from Crown. However, before attending Crown, she went to Pope Elementary, which is located over on 19th in Albany. And that school was closed down about 7 to 8 years ago. The saddening part is that the city just started utilizing that property about a year ago. It just seems like CPS cycles are repeating themselves. When I voted for our mayor, I believed in her and her words, especially when she said she would not close schools due to the impact it has on Black and brown communities. And here we are fighting to keep our schools open. Honestly, I'm an introvert, but I cannot be quiet about this situation. I'm here not just to support my child, but all the children this will affect. They can't stand alone and fight this battle, so I'm here to fight it with them. So CPS Board of Education, they don't need a new school. They need hope, believers, and leaders who will renew history. Thank you.
Ms. Slaughter, thank you for your comments. Mr. President, we'll proceed then with Speaker 17, please. Tasha Dudley, followed by Speaker 26, Lisa Torres. Ms. Dudley? Ms. Dudley, you can unmute and proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Please proceed.
Okay. Greetings. My name is Tasha Dudley. I'm a 4th, 5th grade math and science teacher at Crown Academy of Fine Arts. I'm here today speaking on behalf of my students. A proposal was set to come before the board to open a STEAM school in the North Lawndale community. This proposed venture will additionally close 3 neighborhood schools, including Crown, as well as Lawndale and Sumner. As a staunch advocate for student voices, I surveyed my students to get their opinions on the proposed school. The results were overwhelming. 85% of the students want Crown to remain open. After further discussion, a majority of the students expressed their attachment to Crown based on those intangible things, like meaningful relationships with staff and students. Sometimes in our effort to make things better, we miss what better looks and feels like for the ones who will be the most impacted, in this case, our children. I'm sure I can find another job. I'm sure the parents will do their best to help their children feel safe in a new environment if it comes to pass. However, during this time of uncertainty, with an ongoing pandemic and community violence and lack at an all-time high, a sense of normalcy and well-being has taken center stage in the lives of our children. There are too many variables and the calculations bring fear. Their voices are speaking loud, and I just want to make their opinions clear.
Ms.
Not
Dudley,
now.
you have 30 seconds.
Possibly better resources, but not now. Possibly an academic game changer, but not now. And likely another break in their heart, God forbid, not now. So I plead with the board on behalf of my students to vote down this measure and to construct a new STEAM school. Who knows what the future may bring, but not now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dudley. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker, please, Lisa Torres. Ms. Torres, if you can please unmute yourself and proceed.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Lisa Torres, and I am a SICA at Crown, and I too am here to speak on behalf of our students with the proposal that's being made, our students and our parents, and I echo what's been shared already concerning safety, the timing, the pandemic, disinvestment, and I want to let it be known that we too talked to our students and our parents, and a lot of them were shocked, surprised, and just uninformed of what's going on. And we are here to let you know, President Valle, Janice Jackson, we are here because we are the frontliners, and we're letting you know what we are hearing and what we are seeing. Went out in the community, canvassed, knocked on doors, spoke to the people in the community, spoke to businesses, and passed out flyers, giving them information about what's going on. And one after another, nobody knew what we were talking about when we were out canvassing for Save Our Schools. So I ask you with everyone else to please consider, listen, weigh in, reconsider the decisions that are before you to make. You guys have such an influence, so much power you guys yield. And we ask that you would just hear our voices. Yes, thank you. So we ask that with that position and all the responsibility that is on you guys, I can't even imagine, you guys make really hard decisions, you do. But we would ask you to please reconsider this proposal because the timing and all the other factors that have been mentioned. And I pray that truly, indeed, that the choices and decisions that are made would be for the equity of our communities on the West Side, for our families, for our students, that the community again would flourish, that buildings wouldn't be empty and boarded up, and that there would be grass and not just vacant lots. We ask that, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Your 2 minutes are up. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Mr. President, the next speaker is speaker number 30, and unfortunately he's unable to join us because he's hosting his teacher-parent conferences, but I will read his comments into the record. Speaker number 30 is Pierce Boyd Bagby, and it reads, "Hello, my name is Pierce Boyd Bagby, but I go by Mr. Pierce in my classroom. I'm a first-year, first-grade teacher, and it is a very interesting year to start teaching. But I am not here for myself. I'm here to talk about all 26 of my amazing first graders. My first graders were able to build such a strong community in a time of uncertainty. So it broke my heart to know their school was being considered for demolition. My parents who spent their entire life in Chicago and attended CPS schools compared a school to a community museum. The history and the stories within the walls of the school are sacred and cannot be replaced by a new architecture or new amenities. The collective memory that is shared by the members of this community is not replicable. And I'm scared for my students and what this new future might hold for them. If you ask my class why I have 94% or more attendance every day, it's because every day they look forward to the one consistent thing they have, and that's the friendly faces and strong community that keeps them motivated. On behalf of the Crown Community Academy of Fine Arts, do not close our school. We need it. Thank you. So I'll proceed, Mr. President, then with the next speaker. And we have speaker number 18, Kyla Woodards, followed by speaker number 4, Susie Martin. Ms. Woodards? Ms. Woodards?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kyla Woodards. I am a Sumner alumni, and I am speaking on behalf of the children that go to Sumner, Crown, and Lawndale. We do not agree with this consolidation. We believe that, well, I personally went to Sumner during the time that Fraser was closed and Fraser students were bused to Sumner and walked to Sumner to continue their learning. This seemed like a good idea at the time, but it caused quarrels among the children. We weren't on the same level as far as learning, and it slowed down class time. It also outside of class, it was not good as far as safety. The children, like I said, were fighting constantly, and it wasn't conducive for learning. Also, I went during the time where KIPP was moved into Sumner's building, and we were confronted with the same issues. I believe that this will happen with any type of school consolidation because it has failed the children. Two different schools are learning two different types of materials. Two different schools are from two different types of neighborhoods. And now we're trying to combine three different schools with three different types of neighborhood, three different types of children, three different types of teaching styles. They won't equal each other. The first year at least will be not conducive to learning. I understand. The first year at least will not be conducive to learning. They will not learn as much as possible within that first year, at least. The first couple of years will not be as you guys plan it to be. So I am totally against it as far as education and as far as safety measures, because this will not be conducive for the children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Woodard. We'll proceed, Mr. President, with the next speaker. She is speaker number 4, Susie Martin, followed by speaker number 6, Luz Maria Flores. Ms. Martin? Ms. Martin, if you can please unmute and proceed. Ms. Martin, you can unmute and proceed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Martin. Please
Hi.
proceed.
Hi, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Susie Martin. I run an elevator repair company called Smart Elevators. I am an example of the American dream, an immigrant who was given the opportunity to create my own business, and through a lot of hard work and hustle, I now beat the big boys on price and service, saving taxpayer hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last decade. I was falsely accused of bribery. Over the last 3 years, we have made a lot of improvement and pushed all the elevators to be code compliant with the city of Chicago. When we first started servicing the elevators for CPS, the common themes were, we have not seen any elevator mechanic in years, and a lot of elevators were down for years. Your staff is extremely happy with us and the service we provide. We provide services with honesty and integrity. Smart Elevators is being blackballed by CPS because I stood trial for bribery. I proved my innocence, but CPS apparently has Smart Elevators listed on a list of banned companies, and I am treated as a convicted felon. The mere fact that I was found not guilty by the federal court should eliminate any prejudice against me
Ms.
by
Martin,
government.
you have 30 seconds.
In my view, CPS action amount to type of illegal double jeopardy. On Friday, January 10th, 2020, I met with CPS procurement. I have been given conflicting information on my status as an approved CPS vendor. Please confirm my status as an approved CPS vendor and subcontractor. I know there's a lot of backlog of elevator repair work, and I am eager to deploy my staff, the best in the business, to bring CPS to state of good repair.
Thank you,
If
Ms.
for
Martin.
some reason I'm not approved CPS vendor or subcontractor, please confirm the reason why, so I can immediately rectify and perceive shortcoming and regain my status as an approved CPS vendor or subcontractor.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Martin.
for your prompt attention.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker, Mr. President, is speaker number 6, please, Luz Maria Flores. Ms. Flores, if you can please unmute and proceed. Señora Flores. Señora Flores, puede proceder. Señora Flores, por favor, ponga su micrófono. Señora Flores.
Bueno.
Sí, puede empezar. Gracias.
Ok. Buenos días. Hola, mi nombre es Luz María Flores. Soy de la comunidad de Back of the Yard. He sido madre voluntaria por 21 años en la escuela Seward. He pertenecido al concilio escolar local por 17 años y soy madre de 4 hijos. Estoy aquí representando a los padres líderes de todas las comunidades en Chicago sobre las experiencias que han tenido con el aprendizaje remoto. Hemos visto que los estudiantes han sido afectados porque no estaban preparados para esta nueva realidad de aprendizaje remoto en este tiempo de pandemia. Específicamente, quiero enfocarme en los estudiantes con aprendizaje diverso. En mi experiencia, hablando con madres de hijos con aprendizaje diverso, escuchaba que necesitaban más apoyo con sus hijos, porque ellos desconocen las técnicas que los maestros utilizan en sus aulas. Las mamás sienten frustración y preocupación por no poder ayudar a sus hijos en el aprendizaje remoto como ellas quisieran. En estos momentos es crucial para los niños que reciban todo el apoyo necesario para poder avanzar en el aprendizaje. Yo le pido a la Junta Directiva de Educación que apoye a estas familias proveyendo programas como arte, música y baile. Estos programas son importantes para ayudar a los estudiantes a desarrollar sus destrezas y motivarlos en su aprendizaje, ya que, como es sabido, los estudiantes de aprendizaje diverso desarrollan sus sentidos y esto los ayuda a enfocarse en su aprendizaje. Muchas gracias a la Junta de Educación por considerar mi petición y gracias en nombre de las familias con estudiantes de aprendiz diverso. Gracias.
Gracias, señora Flores. Mr. President, we'll have our translator.
Hi, my name is Luz Maria Flores. I'm from Back of the Yards. I've been a parent volunteer for 21 years at Seward Elementary and have served on the LSC for 17 years. I'm a mother of 4 children. I'm here representing parent leaders from many communities in Chicago who are experiencing remote learning. We have seen how students have been affected because they were not prepared for this new mode of remote learning during this pandemic. I specifically want to focus on our diverse learners. In conversations with mothers of diverse learners, I learned that they need more support with their children because they don't know the techniques that teachers use in their virtual classrooms. Mothers are feeling frustrated that they can't help the children with remote learning the way they would like. I ask that the Board of Ed support these families by providing all the necessary support and programs such as art, music, and dance. These programs are important to help students develop their skills and motivate them as they learn. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. President, we'll proceed with the next speaker then. We have speaker number 7, Mary Alice, followed by speaker number 8, Cassie Creswell. Miss Alice? Miss Alice, you can unmute and proceed, please. Miss Alice? You can proceed. Yes, we can hear you. You can proceed.
Good morning. My name is, or good afternoon. My name is Mary Alice Atanat, and I am in parent leadership here at Chicago Public Schools and in the community. I want to read you what was in my Twitter feed yesterday. A 4-year-old baby with disabilities was dragged down a hallway by an off-duty officer working as security. They notified DCFS, but not his mother. Her lawyer had to FOIA the district and the school to find out what happened. Can you imagine this happening to a white parent? The parent's attorney said they say they can save our children from this pandemic, but can they even save them from their own employees? I want you to know that this happened to my daughter. She was harmed by your employees and had to be placed in a therapeutic day school. Currently, CPS and the mayor's office is touting universal pre-K as the savior for our 4-year-olds. and shutting down community-based organizations that provide targeted supports to force our babies and their families into this dysfunction that is Chicago Public Schools. Families who have experienced the most gravest forms of trauma, the most gravest forms of generational systemic racism, generational systemic exploitation. Then you force them into an institution where families are then re-traumatized. Let's make sure that we all understand the real reason why the mayor's office and CPS wants these 4-year-olds is so that you can have the Title I money that is attached to them.
Ms. Ellis, you have 30 seconds.
As all of you here continue to support universal pre-K, make certain that you understand that you are supporting the policies that support and continue systemic generational exploitation and systemic generational racism of our Black and Brown communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Mr. President, we'll continue with the next speaker, please. Speaker number 8, Cassie Creswell, followed by speaker number 10, Maria Gonzalez. Ms. Creswell?
Hi, this is Cassie Creswell, Illinois Families for Public Schools. Good afternoon. First, I wanted to lift up 4-year-old Jamari Wright as well. He deserves a truly safe school. We need police out of CPS, whether SROs or security guards. What will it take? Second, thank you for delaying the vote on the Student Online Personal Protection Act policy until next month. Public Act 101516 has many important protections to strengthen the original SAPA law. The provisions of the law will apply whether or not they're in the district's policy, but clear policy helps all the stakeholders in CPS. And as the largest district in Illinois, our choices for what operators and vendors must do will have a ripple effect for all the children in the state. We can lead the way in protecting student-sensitive data and families' rights. Our 2 major concerns about the policy as written: first, we'd like the board to make it crystal clear that students' data is not for sale, no matter what verb you use. Sell, rent, lease, trade, or license. To that end, we urge you to include a definition of sell or rent that covers any transfer of data in exchange for any consideration. The College Board, in particular, has been selling data and using the flimsy excuse that licensing does not count as selling. CPS should put a stop to this practice and also ensure that the policy has no loopholes that allow it in the future. Second, the protections of the law hinge on the fact that any sharing of student data between the school and a third party must take place under the protections of a written agreement that meets stringent criteria between the district and the operator. Unfortunately, none of those protections will matter if operators are permitted to force kids into individual contracts separate from the district's own contracts that don't have to meet these standards or the requirements of other state and federal student privacy laws. This is currently happening, again, with the College Board as a prime example. The policy you passed should put it in writing that this won't be permitted any longer. Ed tech contracts are something that district employees should be responsible for evaluating and enforcing, not my 14-year-old, not any child getting their free compulsory public education from CPS. I very much look forward to working with the board to improve this policy before it's up for a vote again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Creswell. Mr. President, we'll proceed with speaker number 10, Maria Gonzalez, followed by speaker number 11, Jennifer Tolliver. Ms. Gonzalez? Ms. Gonzalez, if you can please unmute and proceed.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You can proceed.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Gonzalez, school clerk delegate, and here on behalf of all my fellow school clerks citywide. First of all, I want to thank everyone attending this meeting and those who have and are supporting and fighting for us, the school clerks. I also want to personally thank my wonderful administrators and staff at my school. They have done everything they can to keep us safe at our school and are very supportive and understanding. Now, what I don't understand is that on one hand, the mayor is saying stay home and you shouldn't be retaliated by your boss if you choose to stay home because of COVID concerns. But CPS is sending clerks threatening emails that they won't get paid if they request to work remotely. Clerks have the right to work remotely 4 days a week. Why is CPS telling clerks to apply for leaves? Clerks are under so much pressure already. Why are you not respecting our lives? Everyone else is working remotely. Why aren't clerks able to do the same? We were able to work remotely last spring, and I know we are capable to continue. We are all loyal to our jobs and know we will be sure to assist in whatever we can and must do in order to help run our schools. We all know that many CPS departments are also working remotely, and that's fine and safe for them to do as well. But why can't school clerks and techs do the same? We need that choice. We all know that schools, regardless of the precautionary measures CPS is trying to take, there can still be individuals with the virus and not showing any symptoms. That's a bigger issue and a risk that CPS wants us to take. That's scary. I am working remotely now because I have a family member that tested positive and showed no symptoms. So imagine that, people walking without symptoms. Clerks should not be told to apply for sick leaves. They should work remotely. We have technology tools sufficiently to communicate with our staff, teachers, and parents. We are dedicated clerks and know we won't let our schools down. Be fair to us. Give us that choice. Don't let tragedy be your wake-up call. COVID is real and kills. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker, Mr. President, speaker number 11, please. Jennifer Tolliver, followed by Aviance Fleming, speaker number 19. Ms. Tolliver?
Hi.
You can proceed. We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members, and associates. My name is Jennifer Tolliver, and I am the LSC chairman at Dewey School of Excellence in the AUSL network on the south side of Chicago in the Inglewood community. I've been chairman for 2 terms now. Quick story on how that happened. I'm an active parent at the school. One day while dropping in at the parent resource room, Ms. Lewis, the room teacher, asked me to fill out the application. She gave me the rundown on LSC and said I would be a great candidate. I completed the application, was voted in as a member, and quickly voted in as the chairman. I appreciate Dewey for what they are doing for my son academically, socially, and emotionally. The staff sees the bigger picture and make sure the students see the same vision as well. My son has only attended Dewey. Right from the age of 3, I took him out of daycare and put him in a full-day Head Start program over at the school. Josiah Smith, age 8, with a 3.5 GPA, is currently in the 3rd grade and on his way to be a well-rounded scholar. Josiah does have an IEP for his speech and is currently part of the speech therapy sessions offered by the school. Even though he does have a speech impediment, it is not harming him academically, and the teacher speaks highly of him. Having a solid foundation has always been important to me while he was in the womb. I am grateful that Dewey has helped plant that foundation in him academically.
Ms. Tolliver, you have 30 seconds.
Great. I like what Dewey is doing for my son and the school community. Ms. Coker is sticking to the school's mission and making sure every student is fully equipped to be successful, from coat shoes and toy drives to helping provide school uniform basics and school supplies to giving out student incentives and more. With the support of the network, she is working hard to make great scholars. I am proud to be a part of Dewey School of Excellence in the AUSL network. I have seen the wonders of the school, being a part of the network, and I look forward to what more is to come. So thank you for listening and have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Tolliver. Our next speaker, Mr. President, speaker number 19, please. Aviance Fleming, followed by speaker number 12, Rogelio Manzano. Ms. Fleming.
Good morning, Board of Education. My name is Aviance Fleming, and I am here today to voice my support for the Academy of Urban School Leaders. Dewey School of Excellence and the AUSL Community Outreach Program has been super essential to me and my brother these last few months after losing our mother to COVID in May. I'm now his guardian, so I've become very involved in school life. Dewey has shown such a stable and given him a very nurturing environment, and it's allowed him to succeed despite our recent traumas. COVID has impacted all of us, but thanks to the efforts of Ms. Coker and Mr. Stewart from the AUSL network, it has greatly lessened the blow. I'm 100% certain that we need programs like AUSL in our lower income neighborhoods. I agree that programs like this can save lives of students who don't have that extra help that they need. I hope that you continue the support to AUSL's work at the Dewey School of Excellence. And I want to thank you guys for listening to me today.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. Thank you for your comments. We'll proceed, Mr. President, with speaker number 12, please. Rogelio Manzano, followed by speaker number 13, Jianan Shi. Mr. Manzano? Mr. Manzano, you could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rogelio Manzano. I'm a physical education instructor with 21 years of teaching experience, 12 of which have been at AUSL School, Tarkington Elementary. I am here to speak to you as a parent, a teacher, and as a coach. As a parent, I chose to enroll my two boys at Tarkington School and at Solorio Academy because of the great things they had to offer. My boys came across many very dedicated, hardworking teachers that took the time to know them. Many of these teachers put in extra time before and after school to provide them with every opportunity to succeed. This prepared my boys for the years after high school and molded them into well-rounded, capable young men. AUSL also provided many extracurricular programs that they might not have had the chance to experience at a traditional CPS school. Because of these opportunities, my boys enjoyed going to school every day, and they very rarely missed any days. Some of the best memories I had, aside from athletics, was watching them perform in their winter and spring recitals. One of my boys sang in the school choir, and the other played an instrument. Two things that I didn't have the opportunity to do. Through athletics, my sons had the opportunity to compete against some of the best competition in the state. These opportunities built a tremendous sense of pride within the school and the community. As a teacher moving to Tarkington from a traditional CPS school, I noticed a big difference in the amount of resources that were made available to teachers and students. Our admin team and coaches at Tarkington are constantly helping us improve our practice and provide us with opportunities growth. We meet in cluster teams to problem solve so that we know what's going on in each other's classes, which is one of the things I feel that we didn't do
Manzano, you have 30 seconds.
where I previously taught. Our admin goes over and beyond to provide us with the necessary resources to get the job done. Lastly, I want to mention some of the events that we provide to build community inside and outside of the school. Our schools provide events such as Family Reading Night, Breakfast with Santa, Halloween Steam Night, and various other events, as well as programs, after-school programs like folkloric dance, art, BAM, Gear Up, and let me not forget to mention numerous sports. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Manzano. Thank you for your comments. We'll proceed, Mr. President, with speaker number 13, please. Jianan Shi, followed by speaker number 22, Consuelo Martinez. Mr. Chi?
Good afternoon, y'all, and happy LSD Election Day. This is John Ann, Director at Raise Your Hand. While we're in the middle of a pandemic, CPS is continuing to entertain the idea of closing down 3 elementary schools in North Lawndale. Schools that on average are 95% Black and 90% low income. Parents should not be calling in today, spending their nights and weekends to fight to keep their schools open during a pandemic. We stand with the North Lawndale parents and community members in rejecting the NLCCC's current proposal and instead ask those proposed investments to be distributed across the 3 schools. Like the fight at National Teachers Academy, the community must continue to reject false choices. Schools are anchors, and potential school actions like these destabilize the area. Closing down schools actually works counter to some of the other NLCCC's goals, such as improved home ownership and attracting outside investment. The 3 schools' attendance areas are the same areas where they're seeking to reduce the number of vacant units and lots. Who will come if you close them down? Can we invest in Black and brown communities without taking anything away? This continues to reveal the lack of equitable citywide facilities planning. The current proposal has requested at least $65 million and has gathered over 20 partnerships. Why can't we invest that across all 3 schools? Quickly regarding CPS reopening, according to the last family opt-in form, 66% of pre-K and cluster parents do not want to go back. Virtual learning must be improved. This is also an issue of public trust. Parents are being left out of the process and instead are watching labor disputes, changing health metrics, and the questions left unanswered. Unless that changes, I don't see how parents who are being asked to decide during this 3rd wave will opt in to send their students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. Our next speaker, please, speaker number 22, Consuelo Martinez. Señora Martinez. Señora Martínez. Señora Martínez, puede seguir. Por favor, prenda su micrófono y puede proceder.
Bueno, ¿me escuchan?
Sí, señora Martínez, sí, la escuchamos.
Bueno, buenos días, miembros de la Junta de Educación. Muchas gracias por escucharme. Mi nombre es Consuelo Martínez. Soy madre de una estudiante de Back of the Yard College Prep High School en el vecindario de Las Empacadoras. Y he escuchado a otras mamás junto con lo que están pasando con sus hijos. No solo estoy representando a mi hija, sino también estoy escuchando y representando a más de 200 padres alrededor de la ciudad. Con el aprendizaje remoto, me he dado cuenta de que mi hija está aprendiendo más o menos. Ellas tienen necesidades especiales, pero también me he dado cuenta de que están teniendo problemas emocionales. En diferentes reuniones que he tenido con otros padres, me di cuenta que estos otros niños están teniendo los mismos problemas. Hay niños que no están avanzando, niños de pre-K, de kinder, de primero, no están avanzando y están perdiendo tiempo de su desarrollo. No se están comunicando y necesitan apoyo adicional con el aprendizaje en general y con el uso de la tecnología. El distrito debe pedir a las escuelas que se enfoquen y atiendan el desarrollo socioemocional de cada niño, más con los traumas y los cambios que hemos tenido por la pandemia. Se debe prever estrategias y herramientas. También se tiene que establecer un tiempo para que los alumnos puedan socializar y relajarse en base a sus necesidades y sobre todo a sus edades. El distrito debe pedir a la educación un tiempo, a las escuelas un tiempo específico con supervisión para que los estudiantes puedan socializar y crear comunidades entre ellos. Pre-COVID ya existía esta estructura. Por ejemplo, cuando los estudiantes comían, tenían la oportunidad de conversar con sus compañeros. Debe de haber una estructura para socializarse ahora con el aprendizaje remoto. Se debe de atender a cada estudiante como un niño completo y no como un número más en CPS. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Gracias, señora Martínez. Mr. President, we'll have Jessica translate her statement.
Hi, my name is Consuelo Martinez. I'm the mother of a high school student at Back of the Yards College Prep. Not only am I here representing my daughter, I'm also representing more than 200 parents around the city. I have noticed that although my daughter is learning well in her remote classes, she's also having some social emotional issues. In conversations with other parents, I learned that other students are experiencing similar problems. Some students are not growing socially as they're losing socializing time, and they need additional support with technology and remote learning in general. The district should provide tools to schools so that they can meet each child's social emotional needs, more so with the traumas the pandemic has brought. CPS should require schools to have a specific time that is supervised for students to build community with each other. This should be accommodated based on their needs and age. This is a structure that was in place before COVID. For example, during lunch period, students had the opportunity to talk to their classmates. Now with remote learning, there should also be a similar structure that allows them to socialize. We need to treat every student like a whole child and not just another number in CPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. President, we'll continue with the speakers list. Our next speaker is speaker number 23, Dixon Romeo, followed by speaker number 24, Blair Flowers. Mr. Romeo?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. My name is Dixon Romeo. I'm a proud CPS graduate. Went to Skinner Elementary, Kenwood Academy. Went on to get my economics degree from Grinnell College. I'm an LSC member at Parkside, as well as a local school council advisory board member representing networks 12 and 13. And I'm here to speak in support of the parents, teachers, and students, some of which I know very well, who are opposing the closing of their three neighborhood schools, Crown, Lawndale, and Sumner. The CPS Office of Equity states that equity means championing the individual cultures, talents, abilities, languages, and interests of every CPS student by ensuring that they receive the necessary opportunities and resources to meet their unique needs and aspirations. I bring that quote up because there isn't a dollar sign or a price tag when we think about equity, right? And every single Black child deserves as much resources as needed to ensure their success. The data, the community, and the words of the students are extremely clear. What has been needed in North Lawndale is more resources, not clever ways of repackaging, giving them less. We can't acknowledge that Black communities have been historically disinvested in, blame them for their disinvestment by using metrics that don't favor them, and then turning around and saying the only way that they can get investment is to further take from their communities, whether it be a school, community center, or something else. That is what's been going on in North Lawndale for decades, and that has to stop. During this pandemic, I've seen these parents reach out to individuals in the community, reach out to elected officials, reach out to more neighbors, reach out to the city, reach out to the board, reach out to board members. They've done everything
Romeo,
right.
you have 30
and
seconds.
yet still, thank you. They've done everything right, and yet and still, I get the feeling, and they do as well, that their voices aren't being heard. And so I'm speaking out in support of them and asking that not only does this board not vote on closing these schools or not accepting any proposals that would close these schools, but legitimately works with these parents to have sustainable community schools where these kids can receive the full investment they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Romeo. We'll continue, Mr. President, with speaker number 24, Blair Flowers, and then the last speaker from the speakers list, speaker number 28, Tim Noonan. Ms. Flowers? Ms. Flowers, you can unmute and proceed, please. Ms. Flowers? Can you please unmute?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You can proceed.
All right. Hello, CPS board members. I'm Blair Flowers. I have an 8th grader at Plato Learning Academy in Austin, where I also sit on the PAC. I have worked in the Austin community for well over 25 years under the Old West Side Ministers Coalition from 1998 to 2013, where I was under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Lewis Flowers. I am here to bring an issue that my students and parents are having with the Chicago Connect program to help everyone get internet service. The idea is great for everyone to get internet access. However, the speed and quality of service is not good enough. Comcast have offered many different levels of internet speed. Right now, Chicago Connect is at the bottom of the scale. Many parents at Plato are still having issues with either connecting to the service or the signal being too weak for the children to stay connected. Our survey response shows that 5% of Plato parents are using Chicago Connect Wi-Fi, 10% are using Chicago Connect hotspot, and 5% are using free local Wi-Fi, while 82% of our parents have opted into paid programs, even though most qualify for Chicago Connect, but decided to pay for service due to concerns about connectivity issues. It would be a good idea for more schools to offer more hotspots. That way, the need for the students to have connection issues can have their own internet service, their own internet source. Other options is that Comcast can just increase the speed connection that they are already offering, or offer discounted rates for their next level of high-speed connection. I urge CPS to build upon the Chicago Connect program to ensure that it is working for everyone who needs it, especially families at Plato who still aren't connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. Thank you for your comments. Mr. President, we'll proceed then with the last speaker, Tim Noonan, please, speaker number 28.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Noonan,
Hello.
please proceed.
Hi. Okay. Hello, my name is Tim Noonan. I'm an elected LSC member at Kellogg Elementary and a proud parent of Nora Noonan. We have laid out the case month after month since June of 2019 that there certainly is a need for an addition at Kellogg. I'm here to ask, why can't Kellogg get the addition? We have demonstrated there is definitely a need. Is it because we're a 90% minority school while the precedent of the 50 closed schools from years ago looms large? Is it because we're a small school and we have a limited number of voices? Is it because we're situated in an affluent neighborhood of Beverly, yet many of our parents are essential workers and cannot attend these meetings, or are low income and cannot take off the time from work? Is it because we're performing so well that Chicago Magazine recognized Kellogg as one of the best elementary schools in Chicago, that perhaps we have enough resources because we're doing that well? Is it because the modular is not bad enough, even though thousands of taxpayers' dollars are spent annually to repair the walls from falling, and the modular is beyond its useful life? We have an outstanding FOIA request since early September with 7 extensions. We wait for this basic information about the modular's history. We see that other schools are getting additions, and I'm sure their needs exist. Why don't you see the same need in Kellogg? Kellogg has proven a solid attendance numbers as well as a quality place for children to learn. I urge you to make the capital needed for an addition at
Mr.
Kellogg.
Noonan, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. That's it, by the way.
That's it. Oh, thank you, Mr. Noonan. Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
Mr. President, we will now proceed with the elected officials. We will call on State Representative Edgar Gonzalez from the 21st District, please. Representative Gonzalez, if you can please unmute.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, please. Please proceed.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edgar Gonzalez, and I'm the state representative of the 21st House District of Illinois. I'm a proud product of CPS schools. Just 5 years ago, I actually graduated from Whitney Young High School, so I'm glad that, Dr. Kenner was on a little bit earlier. I'm glad to hear that Dolphins are still winning the blue ribbon. In 2009, I had just started in 7th grade, and, now it's 2020, so, time has definitely flown. And I'm glad to hear that my 8th grade English teacher, Dr. Daniel Blolan, was instrumental in applying for the blue ribbon. So, growing up and to this day, I live a block away from both of my elementary schools, John Spry and Maria Saucedo, both in the Little Village neighborhood. And my neighborhood, as was the rest of my district, has been one of the hardest hit by COVID-19 due to the immense amount of essential workers. It's a majority working class district and a Latino district, many whom unfortunately don't have access to health care or governmental assistance due to their status. So my dad is also actually an essential engineer. He's a proud local 399 operating engineer at UIC Hospital. And as much as he tried to be careful, he tested for COVID, and he tested positive for COVID in May. As did my mom, my sister, who was actually taking her finals remotely for college, and myself. We had every single symptom, and it knocked us out for a few weeks. Thankfully, we're all doing well, but there are many who, have not been as lucky. And, we all know or have heard of someone close to us testing positive for COVID. And after personally going through such an experience, with all due respect, I find it highly irresponsible that CPS is planning to unnecessarily expose students and staff who are majority Black and brown to a potential outbreak of COVID. And now all we need to do is look at the science and the numbers to know that this virus ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And we don't know what this would look like in January. We need to plan for an uncertain future, not the future we hope to have. And I know we all know that we want to serve our students in the best way possible. We all do. And our teachers, our principals, and our staff are dying to see their students. But that won't happen if they're actually dying because of COVID. So I urge CPS to rethink what they're doing and gather input from students, parents, teachers, and organized labor who are diligently fighting to take care of their members and all families across Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gonzalez. Mr. President, we'll proceed with our next elected official, please. State Representative Marcus Evans from the 33rd District. Representative Evans, if you can please unmute.
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can hear you. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, President Duvalier. I think the great board members. Your job is never easy. You're talking to a graduate of CPS. elementary school and Morgan Park High School class of 2003. So I'm a CPS graduate. And of course, I'm also like to mention Dr. Kenna from Whitney Young is a member of my community. So just a great leader. She's doing great work. And many of the principals over here at CVS High School, they're doing the best that they can, the resources they have. We continue to fight in Springfield for more resources for you because more is needed for CPS. I'm calling specifically today because I chair the Labor and Commerce Committee in Springfield, and I believe strongly that workers, we have to continue to fight for workers' rights and protections. I know that you all are doing the best in which you all feel that you can do, but I would also like to just request more, specifically when it comes to the arbitration decisions that were made with regarding to the safety of the clerks in our school, and definitely the safety of the students and staff. It's a crazy time, unprecedented time. I think we should always err on the side of safety. I'm just encouraging you all as you all make the tough decisions that you all err on the side of safety and make conservative and safe decisions for our clerks. Particularly when you look at our clerks and support staff, they don't have even the options of our teachers with regards to income and opportunities. A lot of these folks don't make a lot. And the last thing they need is to get COVID and to have anything interrupted in their lives. So please lean on the decisions of the arbitrator and look to protect our local folks. And again, I'll keep you all in my thoughts. And none of the decisions are easy, but this is one in which I'm using my voice to advocate for. And thank you for your work and the time allowing me and my colleagues to speak. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Evans. And Mr. President, we'll proceed then with Alderman Byron Cincho Lopez, the 25th Ward Alderman, please. Alderman Lopez, if you can please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And first of all, let me thank all the educators, the staff, parents, and students that are serving our city during these very difficult times. Also, let me thank everybody who has provided testimony in front of the Chicago Board of Education. I particularly listened very carefully to the testimonies of educators, parents, people who are on the ground and see the current situation of our schools. It is very important in this line that we at all times, and I speak directly to the Board of Education, CPS, have educators at the table and listen carefully to those who are on the ground. And I hope that we continue listening to those parents who are here in this board today, asking for what every parent should have, which is access to good quality public education. Remote learning, of course, has been a big challenge in our communities. And I think to me, what I listen from our parents or teachers, people on the ground, it is very clear. I think that we need to make sure that we revamp remote learning. We have, of course, our staff, we have teachers, we have parents who are struggling with social-emotional issues. I do think that we ought to listen to those concerns, those issues, and address them. I think to me at this point, it seems very out of touch to even think about the possibility of reopening schools when we have huge positivity rates. We just heard yesterday, Commissioner Awadi, in a very conservative estimate, saying that 1 in 15 people in the city of Chicago are testing positive for COVID. We have communities in the southwest side and the west side where the positivity rates are greater than 20%, between 20 and 30%, and the numbers are growing. We have early childhood sites today where we have many children who are testing positive. and essential workers who are not able to test because of the poor conditions and the poor policies that the city of Chicago has. In this line, I think it's important that we recognize the situation and the conditions. We have seen teachers like Olga and many other teachers. We have positive cases right now in our schools. Right now at Juarez High School, we already got reports of positive cases. It is important that we protect our staff, our teachers, our students, our families, our staff. It is irresponsible to even think about reopening of schools when we see the conditions right now. And I urge the board once again to think about some of the same things that we heard from parents, from educators and experts on the field about how we can revamp remote learning to make sure that we protect lives. We empower LSCs and local decisions to revamp remote learning, to listen to the experts, to listen to the needs of diverse learners and special education, and also bilingual students and families on how we can do that and create opportunities for non-screen activities and ways for us to make this more sustainable. This is a tough time. Of course, the saturation, but we cannot put and risk the lives of our kids, of our families, of our staff, of our teachers on the line. It is irresponsible. The last thing I'd like to say, because we did hear a little bit about parents who are concerned about consolidation, and I would like to share with you the connections between housing, the connection between an austerity measures, the austerity measures that we see in budget, and education. Not too long ago in Pilsen, there was a talk about consolidation of the schools, that they were underutilized, that we needed to close them because they're underperforming. Those two schools today are doing so well. We continue to serve our families, and we'll continue to push for more programming and better funding for our schools. But if we consolidate the schools with the premise of better services and create more overcrowding, how are we going to serve our students of color, mainly Black and brown students, with quality? Those are real estate plans. Oftentimes, they try to serve the real estate industry and their interest on using schools for their purposes. To profit in a time like this, to profit in a time of a pandemic, is not acceptable. We ought to be looking at quality public schools, how we serve them well, how we invest in our children, in our future, not to how we consolidate these services even further. I would like to say at last that it is because of all these decisions that today I'm more convinced than ever before that what we need in the city of Chicago is an elected school board, an elected representative school board who listens to the parents, the educators, the activists, the students, the people from across the city for better policies for all. That doesn't matter where's your zip code. That no matter where you are located, you will receive the same quality education. Today, that's not the case. And we see those decisions reflecting in the budget, those immoral budgets that are proposed that continue to oppress our communities. So today, I'm convinced more than ever that we have to fight to those parents, teachers, educators who are listening there. Please, we got to take the fight and hold Mayor Lightfoot accountable to her promise of an elected representative school board. Not a hybrid, no more, no less. And please, I urge you, please make sure that we have our educators at the table. We are the ones on the ground. They are the ones suffering. They are the ones who put themselves on the line that deserve to be included in these conversations. We got to be thinking about saving lives. We got to make sure that we put that before anything else. Thank you again to the parents and the educators who are fighting out there. And I urge us, the fight for elected representative school board is more important than ever. Thank you again.
Thank you, Alderman. And Mr. President, we do have one more state representative that is trying to join at this time, Representative Lakeisha Collins. She will be joining us in just a minute. Representative Collins? Mr. President, it looks like she's not on at this time. So if you would like to proceed, and then we can.
Yes, let's proceed.
Okay, we'll get her on when she checks in. So, Mr. President, in terms of public participation, that does conclude public participation, except for the call from Representative Collins. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Board members, any questions or comments related to public participation? Then this concludes public participation. We will now proceed with presentations, and we are taking the voluntary closure of Chicago International Charter Schools first. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, please
Yep.
proceed.
Bing Howe, the Chief Portfolio Officer, will present. Bing.
All right. Good afternoon, President Del Valle and members of the board. My name is Bing Howe. I'm the Chief Portfolio Officer for CPS, under which the Incubation Innovation Department resides. I'll be presenting this afternoon on the voluntary charter school closure of CICS, Chicago Quest, which the district is recommending to the board. If we can move to the first slide, please. CICS Chicago Quest is located in the Old Town New City community. The school opened in 2011 and was approved to serve about 800 students in grades 6 through 12 at full capacity. The campus is one of CICS's 14 campuses and is managed by Civitas. In December 2015, CICS considered closing the campus due to the school's placement on the academic warning list and its declining enrollment. However, CICS voted to phase out grades 6 through 8, beginning with the 2016-17 school year. This was ultimately approved by the Chicago Board of Education on December 2016. Currently, the school serves 115 students in grades 9 through 12. If we can go to the next slide, please. Now I would like to provide the board with an overview of the CICS decision to voluntarily close the CICS Chicago Quest campus. CICS has formally notified CPS in early September 2020 that they were recommending the closure of the CICS Chicago Quest campus to their board of directors. During this meeting, CICS cited that the following as reasons for closure. 1, continued declining enrollment year over year, which is supported by CPS's 20th day enrollment numbers for this year. 2, the declining enrollment led to an inability to financially sustain the operations of the school, including essential services to students. And 3, varied academic performance. CICS's closure is surrounded by several high-performing selective and non-selective schools, making it challenging to attract students. The CICS board approved the closure on September 15th, 2020. When a charter school board decides to voluntarily close a campus pursuant to the agreement between the board and the charter school, the board has to provide consent to that closure. On November 10th, 2020, CPS held a virtual public hearing to solicit feedback regarding the decision to close. In addition to the CICS board president giving a statement on the closure, only one individual publicly spoke, a parent of CICS's Bucktown campus. We can go to the next slide. CPS places the highest priority on ensuring that every student affected by closure receives transition supports and is enrolled in a high quality school that best meets their needs. CICS currently has 115 students enrolled, in which 31 are seniors. To that end, following the board's decision, CPS will notify all families of the board's decision to close due to the Chicago schools closure decision and provide the date of an initial virtual parent meeting. 2, preliminary data shows that the students are traveling an average of 5.6 miles to the school, primarily from the south and west sides of the city to attend CICS Chicago Quest. Some students reside near the school, which is located in the Old Town, New City community. The district is currently exploring 21, which translate to 11 districts and 10 charter schools, similar or higher performing performance with capacity that are within a 3-mile radius of students' current homes for CICS's Chicago Quest students. 3, virtual family informational sessions will be held monthly between December 2020 and September 2021 to ensure families are aware of their options and are directly connected to a student transition coordinator. This concludes my formal presentation, and I'm now happy to answer any questions that board members have.
Any questions or comments from board members regarding this presentation? If not,
President Obaye.
yes. Vice President Revolori?
Member Todd Breland.
Hi,
Member Todd Breland.
thank you. I just wanted to clarify, because it's something that came up in public comment, that what we are voting on today is actually a reduction of the cap to CICS by 600 students, as opposed to reallocating these positions to any other CICS schools that exist, and that for students who are currently going to be impacted by this, all the resources and supports that you mentioned are going to help them to decide what school they would like to attend. That includes not just other CICS schools, but also district managed schools. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Todd Breland, for ensuring that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before we proceed, if we may, with the next presentation, we do have State Representative Lakeisha Collins from the 9th District, if she could address the board.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. Representative Collins? If you can please unmute. Representative Collins, can you hear me? If you can please unmute. Representative Collins, can you please unmute?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yes, this is State Representative Lakeisha Collins of the 9th House District. I represent Community North Lawndale, and I am calling in regards to the new STEAM school that has been proposed and the consolidations of Sumner, Lawndale, and Crown. I do not support school closures. What I do support is investment and development without displacement in the community. I feel that right now, in a time where we are focused on COVID and getting those numbers to drive down and make sure that these communities get the resources that they need, that is what we need to be focused on. And talking about a new school in this moment is not the right thing to be focused on. So I ask that the board slow down this process and make sure that the parents, the staff, and the students have say-so in what happens in their community. And so I've been hearing from both sides, from the NLCAC and also from the North Lawndale Parent Action Committee. And it seems to be that they both want the same thing. They want to both lift up North Lawndale, but they're looking at this through different lenses. And like I said before, I do not support school closures. It is not good for the community. There are safety issues that parents and staff and students are concerned about. There are other things that we need to worry about as far as the root causes, the lack of housing, the lack of grocery stores that we need to tackle at this moment. And building a new school and this time is not what's going to be good or fix the rooted issues that are happening in that community right now. And so I ask again that you all slow this process and allow this community to go back to the drawing board and make sure that all the voices in North Lawndale is being heard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative Collins. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, let's proceed to the reopening report.
President Del Valle, I had a clarifying question for Chief Payne.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes, I just wanted to, if you would be so kind to remind me, when Chicago Quest opened quite a few years ago, what was its capacity, its approved capacity?
Brief moment, let me get that for you.
Okay.
the initial capacity year one, the initial approved capacity was 800 students, and that was for a 6 through 12.
Okay, and in the years since, they've been seeing a steady enrollment, like decrease, So did they ever meet that 800 school number, that aspiration?
No. So I do think so. Authorized for 800 seats. Year one, they had 231 seats, but that was because they were just serving grade 6 and scaling up. Okay. At max, they made their way all the way up to around 300, well, a little over 300 students, 380 students. But one of the things that's actually been challenging overall is really being able to find the right student set as well as grade levels for their model. So they went from a 612 to a 912. And since they've actually modified their school model to 912, which was in effect the year for school year FY19, their school population was 236 students, which is now 114 students. So no, they have never met the 800, and at this current model of a high school solely, their population has been decreasing over the last 3 years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding the charter? Okay, then let's proceed with the next report. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you. You teed it up already. We're going to transition into school reopening updates. So I will turn it over to Chief McDade.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Good afternoon. Equity is at the heart of our 5-year vision, and that's the lens through which we make all of our decisions as a district. So as we think through reopening, we want to ground that in our collective vision. As Dr. Jackson outlined earlier today, under the close guidance of our public health officials, CPS will plan to open our school buildings to students enrolled in pre-K and moderate and intensive cluster programs on Monday, January 11th. Students in kindergarten through 8th grade will follow 2 weeks later on Monday, February 1st. We will reopen schools safely and responsibly, and only if our public health officials deem it safe to do so. But we have a moral responsibility to do everything possible to bring our children back into the classroom. Our students are hurting right now, especially our most vulnerable students. Pre-K enrollment is down 29% among Latinx students. For African-American students, that number is 44%. And many of our diverse learners who would normally be receiving intensive therapeutic services at school are not getting that support, placing a huge burden on their families. As a matter of equity, which is at the core of everything that we do at Chicago Public Schools, this is just not acceptable. So we must do everything possible to open our schools while working to keep everyone safe. Chief Operating Officer Arnie Rivera, our Chief Health Officer, Dr. Kenneth Fox, and our Chief Talent Officer, Matt Lyons, will go into deeper detail with you shortly about our plans to keep our community healthy and safe. The situation we are dealing with now has thrown a spotlight on some long-standing inequities among our students of color, our youngest learners, and our children with diverse learning needs. That is why we must talk honestly about how to safely reopen our schools while we wait for a vaccine. The consequences here are not theoretical. Research tells us that if we do not act with urgency, we will be in danger of losing an entire generation of students. It is often said that access to health care should be a fundamental right of all people. Well, the same holds true for a high-quality public education. As I mentioned earlier, enrollment amongst our pre-K students has dropped dramatically this year, which is of grave concern to me as an educator. Getting students into schools at an early age is arguably the most consequential step we can take to boost their long-term academic success, career prospects, and lifetime earnings. And pre-K students are far from the only ones who need our help. We've also seen attendance plummet among our highest needs students. Some of our students have complex physical, emotional, and academic needs, and they would normally be receiving continuous support at school. This lack of intervention is simply unacceptable, and we need to do everything in our power to change it. Here you'll see our timeline for potentially reopening our school buildings for students who want in-person option. Families who are not yet comfortable with going into buildings can choose to learn at home for the remainder of the school year. Pre-K students and students enrolled in moderate and intensive cluster programs will be welcomed back on Monday, January 11th, 2021. Staff who support these programs will report back to duty on January 4th. Students in kindergarten through 8th grade will return on Monday, February 1st, and staff that support these students will return on January 25th. High school students in general education will continue learning at home, and we will evaluate opportunities to bring them back later in 2021. Next week, we will begin notifying families via text message and emails to make sure they understand their options. We will also engage staff regarding their intent to return and provide any support they need with applying for a leave of absence. As we have done from the very beginning, we will continue to follow the science and the guidance of our public health officials. We will reopen in a safe and responsible manner that prioritizes the needs of our community. We have been preparing our school buildings for months now and have invested millions of dollars in safety measures to protect the health and safety of our students and staff. But it will ultimately be our collective responsibility to follow the science and listen to our public health officials over the coming months if we are going to protect the health and wellness of our communities. As we consider the stay-at-home advisory, we must follow the city's stay-at-home advisory, avoid travel, and keep holiday gatherings small, ideally including just the members of our own households. The COVID-19 numbers in Chicago and around the country tell us that this health emergency is not over, so we need to remain vigilant. I worry that unless we act with urgency, we will lose a generation of students. The way to avoid this is to follow public health guidance so we can safely reopen schools. I will now turn the presentation over to Dr. Fox, our Chief Health Officer, and Dr. Fox will walk us through our health and safety protocols and what Chicago's stay-at-home order means for our schools.
Well, thank you, Chief McDade. Good afternoon, everyone. Keeping everyone in our school communities healthy and safe remains our top priority. Staying informed is key to health and safety in the age of pandemic. This is why CPS is sharing data about all actionable COVID-19 cases as depicted in this slide. One fundamental aim is to keep families, students, and staff aware of exactly how the pandemic is affecting the district and its community. Next slide, please. The rising number of COVID cases in Chicago is obviously a cause for great concern. And this is why Mayor Lightfoot has put our city under a stay-at-home advisory for at least the next month. I'm sure you've all been wondering since this advisory was issued, what it will mean for our schools and for our plans to reopen buildings to in-person learning. We'll answer those questions today. First, I want to emphasize that the public health data show that schools and daycare centers can be safe when health and safety protocols are followed. Schools and daycares that follow the health and safety protocols have not been found to be major sources of transmission for this virus, especially among students. We know more about the dynamics of COVID transmission now than we did at the start, or even this past summer. A clear pattern has emerged globally, nationally, and locally. Students have not been the fuel of community surges. Given this evidence, schools are considered essential under the stay-at-home advisory, which means our buildings will be open. CPS will continue to operate as learning hubs and as meal distribution sites, and those out-of-school activities that are permitted under our current public health guidelines will go on as scheduled. We will do all of this because it's what our students and families need, but also because we can succeed in doing it safely, just as others across the globe and here in Chicago have done it. Our team has worked tirelessly to put protocols in place to keep everyone safe, and we're going to talk about those in detail today. Next slide, please. There is only one way to reopen schools, and that is to do it safely and responsibly. So we will continue to follow the latest science and public health guidance. The district has implemented numerous public health measures, which you all should be very familiar with by now. These protocols promote the health and safety of student, staff, and anyone who enters a building, a school building. All must complete a health risk and symptom screener and a temperature check. Face coverings are mandatory, and people must follow healthy habits, hand washing, social distancing, and staying home if you're sick. Soap and hand sanitizer are widely available. Kids learn in pods in the learning hubs, and that'll be the approach as we move forward with in-person learning, the in-person learning expansion. Indoor air quality and ventilation audits have been completed, deemed safe. There are HEPA air filters or air purifiers. Additional custodians for cleaning and disinfecting are in place. And they're using hospital-grade disinfectant sprayers and other equipment and resources appropriate to the task. We have sneeze guards and signage in place, plenty of disinfectant wipes and PPE, personal protective equipment that's available, but is based on job tasks. Next slide, please. Now, as we prepare for the reopening of schools, CPS is also partnering with the Chicago Department of Public Health on a surveillance testing program. CPS will receive a supply of 30,000 COVID test cards by the first week of December for surveillance testing with student-facing staff. CDPH reports that this supply will be adequate for the balance of the school year. Now I'll hand it over to my colleague from the Chicago Department of Public Health, the eminent Dr. Mariel Fershon, to provide a deeper dive into our testing protocol.
Thanks, Dr. Fox. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm a pediatric infectious disease doctor, and I work for the Chicago Department of Public Health as a medical director in the COVID Bureau, previously in the immunization program, now in the COVID Bureau. And we've been working closely with the Office of Student Health and Wellness to create these plans and with CPS at large. So I want to preface this slide with the fact that the testing landscape for COVID is changing daily. Even today, they're announced that FDA has approved an at-home test kit. So this slide pertains to resources that were given to us by the federal government in the form of Binax Now cards. And many of you have heard about these through the media. So this protocol, there are no guidelines for surveillance testing using this particular tests that have been developed, but the usefulness of them has been proven in several different settings, and the federal government has recommended them for settings like this. And so for asymptomatic student-facing staff, we're recommending this surveillance testing, and it's a 15-minute turnaround. It goes midway up the nose. It's not the complete back to the nasopharyngeal space. It's midway up the nose. It can be done by the individual very easily. I've done it myself, and just needs to be supervised by a trained person. which we're working out with the Office of Student Health and Wellness. The result is recorded in our state registries so that it can be reported to the Public Health Department. And therefore, if a teacher tests positive or if a student-facing staff tests positive, then they'll be given isolation instructions and investigated by a contact tracing team. And because they're reported to the health department, that allows us to track these cases. We do still recommend, and actually right now as we speak, the mayor and the Dr. Arwady, the commissioner, are announcing plans for expanding community testing during this second surge. And so we've made a $14 million investment in community testing, which includes opening up a new community site at Midway Airport through our relationship with Curative and CORE to offer free testing for anyone who needs it. But we really still focus on, and especially, you know, as a physician myself, there is value to people getting tested through their own providers, because especially if you have high-risk medical conditions, only your provider would be able to counsel you on exactly what you need. And there may be additional tests that they would recommend. So as doctors, and Dr. Fox would agree with me, since he's been a pediatrician for 30 years, that primary care physicians know their patients best, and they continue to be our first recommendation for where teachers and student-facing staff should go if they have symptoms. But on top of that, we are creating this extra capacity during the second surge, which includes the city testing sites, which can be found there, as well as some of our academic partners who have drive-through sites and the ability to send rapid response teams potentially to schools as needed. And then the employee must self-report through this email address according to protocols that will be in place. So this is something we will continually work on because, like I said, the testing landscape will continue to change, but the federal government has provided us this resource and we've worked out this plan to use it for this setting. I'll hand it back over to you, Dr. Fox.
All right, thank you so much. And I think we're going to move it over to our Chief Operating Officer, Arnie Rivera, to walk us through the work that we've been doing in the past few months to prepare the buildings for the return of students.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. As our public health officials have learned more about COVID-19 and how proper air ventilation and purification can help reduce transmission and provide an additional layer of protection for our school communities, we continue to follow the science, and I want to follow up on two significant steps we have recently taken that Dr. Fox alluded to in our effort to prepare schools for a potential reopening. First, we announced an $8.5 million investment to purchase more than 20,000 HEPA air purifiers, one for every classroom in the district, as well as main offices. These purifiers, which exceed MERV 13 standards and provide more rapid filtration of air than HVAC filters, are capable of ensuring clean, regularly filtered air for classrooms, even if mechanical or natural ventilation are not available. These air purifiers will filter over 99% of airborne viruses, bacteria, and mold. This significant investment is in addition to the more than $68 million we have already invested this year to repair and update our school buildings' mechanical air and ventilation systems. Secondly, as part of our commitment to evaluating the ventilation systems in every school, assessments of both classroom ventilation and school air quality have been completed, and anyone in the community can view these comprehensive reports on every school at cps.edu/air quality. Our facilities team completed an assessment of the ventilation systems in every school to ensure that every classroom has a clean source of air and a vent to allow air to leave the classroom in order to dilute air particles that may have viruses or bacteria. We confirmed that the vast majority of classrooms have operational mechanical or natural ventilation, and we are committed to making all necessary repairs and investments to ensure that schools can safely support all students who may be in school buildings this year. We also hired independent state-certified environmental hygienists to test each school's air quality for relative humidity, temperature, carbon monoxide, and airborne particulates. I'm happy to say that every school has been certified and ready for reoccupancy. Reports will include both classroom-level ventilation conditions as well as the air quality reports that were provided by the state-certified hygienists. Again, all of this information is available on cps.edu/air quality. These are just the latest steps we have taken to ensure a safe return to school for our students and staff, and we will continue to take more steps forward as we continue to put their safety above anything else. Since students will not return to in-person learning until 2021, we will continue expanding our learning hubs so that more children have a safe, supportive space to engage in online learning. To date, the district has reached out to 13,000 parents who have expressed interest in our learning hubs, and we are currently serving nearly 500 students across 15 different sites. CPS will resend the interest survey with the announcement of Q2 plans to gauge the interest of additional parents. Then, using our attendance and grade data from Q1, we will expand Learning Hub sites to include the schools and communities that have experienced the lowest engagement rates. We will also continue to prioritize schools with high numbers of students in temporary living situations, as well as school buildings that are underutilized. CPS will also continue to work through our community-based organizations and our STLS team to ensure the interest survey is accessible to high-need families, particularly those with limited internet access. I will now turn it over back to Chief McDade to review some key data points from our first quarter.
Thank you, Arnie. As we mentioned earlier, we recently closed our first quarter of the school year. Elementary school report card pickup conferences will be held today, with high schools meeting tomorrow. And so our data team was able to extrapolate data from our student information system to provide us with first quarter attendance as well as grading. As we plan for the second quarter and beyond, it's important that we review key academic and attendance data that will help improve our remote learning practices. Last spring, CPS tracked engagement in remote learning through Google Analytics. This year, the district is monitoring engagement through attendance. Today, we will review some of the key findings from this data as it informs our plans going forward. First, we'll take a look at attendance. Overall, Q1 attendance is at 91.3%, which is 2.9% lower than where we were at the end of Q1 last school year. The decline in attendance is most notable among our African American students, whose attendance rate has dropped by 5 percentage points. We have experienced an overall drop in attendance this quarter, with priority groups including students with individualized education plans, English learners, students in temporary living situations, and economically disadvantaged students being the most impacted. All grade levels have seen declines in attendance relative to last year, though the biggest drops have occurred at the high school level, with 9th grade attendance down 5%. Now we will take a look at Q1 grades. In the next few slides, we will take a deep dive into Q1 grades. We will look at elementary and high school grades broken down to look at outcomes in English and math, disaggregated by race and ethnicity and priority group populations. First, we will start with elementary school. As a reminder, elementary school grades are final at the end of every quarter. Today, we are presenting grades in reading and math for Q1. This slide shows the comparison between Q1 grades last year and Q1 grades this year. Overall, we are seeing that students were assigned more A's, but also more F's relative to last year. Both A's and F's are increasing at about 3 percentage points. We are seeing a decrease in the number of B's and C's, but an increase in A's, D's, and F's assigned. This data is consistent across all races and priority groups, including our English learners and our students with diverse learning needs. We will now take a look at our elementary school racial breakdown for Q1 grades in reading. Unfortunately, failing grades have also been on the rise during Q1. For our African American and Latinx students, they have had the largest increase in failing marks for reading compared with students of other races, while white and Asian students had the smallest increase in failing marks across all core subjects. In taking a look at math, African American and Latinx students also had the largest increase in failing marks for math compared to students of all other races. This is consistent with what the data showed us on the prior slide for reading. We will now take a look at our priority groups. On this slide, we demonstrate a breakdown by priority group. When compared to the district average, our priority groups are performing lower than their peers. Our students in temporary living situations, who are among our most vulnerable population, were assigned a lower proportion of passing marks across core subjects compared with other priority groups and the district overall. We will now move to high school, quarter one. High school grades are issued at the semester and are cumulative of first and second quarters. This means that quarter one grades roll into quarter two. As with the elementary grades, we are presenting on reading and math for this presentation. This slide shows a comparison between last year's quarter one grades and this year's quarter one grades for high school. Similar to what we saw in elementary schools, fewer passing grades were assigned overall for high school students during quarter one, while a higher number of A's were assigned for reading and math. Compared to our elementary schools, it's notable that the increase in A's is greater for our high school students than for our children in elementary school. Like the elementary school presentation, we are disaggregating the quarter one grades for a racial breakdown for reading first in high school. For high school students, Asian and white students were assigned more total passing grades for reading than students of all other races. African American and Latinx students demonstrate a higher increase in failing grades awarded. However, the increase in A's is observed across all racial groups. Now we'll take a look at the breakdown for math. African American and Latinx students also had the largest increase in failing marks for math compared to students of all other races. Additionally, although increases are realized for African American and Latinx students in math, they are not as high as they are in reading. Now we will take a look at our quarter one grades by priority groups, which includes students with an individual education plan, our EL students, our students in temporary living situations, and our students identified as economically disadvantaged. This slide shows the high school data by priority group. As with elementary schools, we see similar disparities amongst our priority groups when compared to their peers. However, the disparities are not as stark as they were in the elementary schools. Students in temporary living situation, high school students, were assigned a lower proportion of passing marks across core subjects compared with other priority groups and the district overall. What is clear from all of the data slides shown today is that we continue to struggle with the issue of equity. Our African American, Latinx, and students in priority groups have not been served well enough by remote learning to experience success. While there is room for improvements for online learning, we must also push hard to open our classrooms so that we can ensure greater access to high quality instruction for our students. There are supports and services that are needed for our most vulnerable population of students that go well beyond academics, and a remote educational environment is not proving to serve all students well. This is newly received data, and we will be engaging in a root cause analysis of this data at the district, network, and local school level to identify existing barriers to student success. This concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions that you have related to the reopening presentation.
President Dabai, this is Elizabeth.
Thank you. Member Todd Breland.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate that the plan has a goal and target dates, but of course those are still dependent on the public health situation. And so in addition to having Dr. Fox here today, I really want to just say thank you to Dr. Fashone from CDPH for being here. And I did have a question for her. I hope she's still on the line. I think part of what we're hearing a lot from parents in our school communities is wanting some clarity on the criteria that would allow students to safely return to school and staff to safely return to school. And so I was wondering if you could say more about explaining the stabilization metric that's part of this plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that we've researched incredibly closely, both based on our data here in Chicago, as well as nationally and internationally. And really the underlying, sort of to reference back to what Dr. Fox was saying, the underlying principle here is that the data shows us that schools are safe places for children when layered mitigation strategies are in place. That's the underlying concept, that schools are essential services. And especially here in Chicago, the benefit of added equity outweighs the risks, because it's always a risk-benefit analysis here. What we're finding is that the operational burden of the current community spread of the second surge is such that it's very challenging for the schools that are currently open in this city to maintain the level of mitigation necessary to prevent transmission within the schools. And so when we thought about where we would feel that we were stabilized, we looked back to our first wave data, and we also looked at data from other countries and other places in the US who had both a first and a second wave. I think people forget that some places didn't have a first wave and they've only had this wave. And whether you see it as a plus or not, we have the full experience of the first wave plus the second wave. To be able to see how this disease transmitted. And so we used that data from the first wave locally and then compared it to what others were using to look for that metric. And that metric landed us on this doubling time, which is where the curve is flattening. And for us, the essential point there is that teachers aren't walking in the door sick because they're getting it, communities are walking in the door sick. And the fewer people that are walking in the door sick, the less contact tracing needs to happen. The staffing for contact tracing and the operational burden we're feeling just at the health department, I mean, you can imagine, fielding 2,000 cases a day is not sustainable. And when you look at some of these schools that are open, they are pausing or stopping because they can't sustain the mitigation strategies, not because there's transmission in school. And so we want to get to that point where the curve is flattening so that we're able to say community transmission is low enough now that the rate of transmission, which is what we're equating to this sort of case doubling time, is low enough now that we can enforce these mitigation strategies that they will prevent transmission. So I can expand on that more if you'd like me to, but hopefully that answered your question.
No, thank you. That's helpful. I think it's just helpful to hear directly from you as partners with the district to understand better the thinking from the CDPH side about how these, as partners on how this decision is going to be made. And I guess to the earlier points that were being made, I mean, the importance of working now, right, to make the conditions such that we can get students back in the future. And that's certainly part of that's personal responsibility, as everyone's mentioned, changing holiday plans, et cetera. But I think also hopefully and continuing to push for the other types of resources in society beyond schools, right, that are going to be necessary, whether that's cash assistance or assistance with housing, et cetera, to allow our families to stay home as much as possible and be as safe as possible. So thank you, that's helpful.
Yes, thank you. The question has been asked, and I'm just going to follow up on Member Todd Breland's question here, because I think it is very important that people understand. It's a bit complex, and so we have to simplify it as in explaining it to our communities. Some have said that we don't have metrics, or that the metrics that we've been using have been changing, that we started out looking at the positivity rate, and now we're looking at the number of cases, the doubling, as you said, the doubling time. Is come January, was the doubling time the metrics that the Department of Public Health is going to be using? Will that be the metrics, or will there be others that will also be taken into consideration as a recommendation is made to CPS?
I think I'd say, first of all, that's a great question. But second of all, we talk nearly every day about the trajectory of this outbreak, and new data comes out every single day, and we review it and try to compile it and try to make sense of it. So we, at the beginning of the pandemic, I think we used to be more assured when we were able to give answers like this. I cannot give you an answer to whether we will be considering other factors when it comes down to it, but I can assure you that there will be additional conversations that will happen ahead of reopening to ensure that we're still in an okay place. And whether that means we're adding a metric or potentially even changing it if we, if more data comes along that shows us that this one was wrong, then we will take that into account. And I am committed as a pediatric infectious disease doctor, as a pediatric infectious disease doctor and a mother of 2 CPS students, for this to work. And I have no, intent to make this happen too soon or too late. And we, the doubling time measure was certainly something, I even worked at the alternate care facility that was built during the first wave and helped them set that up. And the doubling time was a very important turning point for us. And so we really felt like this is also just in our experience of going through the first wave before, the best thing to rely upon. But it absolutely may change. And I think communicating that we're committed to reviewing all data as it comes in, it may be more important than sort of sticking to one metric.
Mm-hmm. But if come January, early January, if the doubling time is what it is today, we will not open.
That's correct, because that would mean that we're still going up exactly at the same rate that we are today. That is correct.
Thank you.
And so the doubling time at where it was set means that we are at, where community transmission is not spreading. We're controlled. So which is it is a very hard thing to explain to parents. And we absolutely understand that. And so potentially that idea of the outbreak being controlled and uncontrolled, it might be a better way to explain it. And that we will consider multiple things around that. But the doubling time is where we're looking in terms of rate right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, Tia would like to address the board and ask a question.
Tia, please proceed.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about the reopening plans in terms of like high school students and general education students. So I know that you said that like early learners, elementary school students would be going back with intent around early February. But is the district making any accommodations for high school students and general education students as they continue to learn remotely, such as like mandated block scheduling for high schoolers, additional resources, et cetera, et cetera?
That's an excellent question. We are assembling a task force of high school principals to start thinking about, we stated earlier the complexity of bringing high school students back in person, but we're assembling the task force to kind of work through options to start the path towards in-person for our high school students, as well as look at other ways to improve the remote learning experience at the high school level. You mentioned, mandatory scheduling. That's something that we at the district level do not control the actual schedule. It's a part of the collective bargaining agreement, but schools do have the opportunity, staff have an opportunity to take a look at their schedules and make adjustments at the local school level through the union members. So that's something that some schools have adjusted so far. but we are definitely looking, especially in light of what we see with grades. We'll be doing a deeper analysis of that and identifying what some of the barriers are and what additional supports and interventions can be in place at the high school level. It's also important to note that for additional supports for high school students, there's opportunities to bring, small groups of students to be able to receive social emotional supports that they may need to receive in person. So those are some other options that high schools are looking at and exploring as we continue to work towards improving remote learning. Thank you for that question, Tia.
Tia, do you want to follow up or do you have another question?
Oh, no, thank you so much.
Okay. Yes. Additional questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions.
Member Melendez?
Yes. I want to thank the team for this very comprehensive presentation about the reopening plan, which is, I know it's something that concerns everybody very much for multiple reasons. I also want to acknowledge, although this is based on very anecdotal data, I have a few student teachers that are doing their student teaching with CPS teachers, and I want to highlight the incredible commitment, innovation, and creativity that these teachers are showing during this remote teaching and learning, which is not easy. I have a couple of questions that I hope are not too granular. The first one is for Dr. Fox, and it has to do what you indicated that PPE equipment is going to be available in schools as they reopen, but you said that certain criteria will be applied to the availability of that equipment, and I wonder if you could expand on that.
Yes, thank you. That's an important point. We have thought through this very carefully. The PPE that you need to wear, that you're geared up with,
yes,
it depends on what task you're doing. For example, care room attendants need a higher level of PPE than basically anybody else, except perhaps for a nurse doing certain tasks. Right? So for the care room attendant, we want them in a gown, gloves, a particular kind of mask, not just a cloth face covering. This is a fitted mask. It's an N95 level respirator that has a particular kind of filter, as well as a face shield, right? That's the PPE that's necessary for that task. Somebody like a clerk doesn't need that. A clerk needs a cloth face covering. A clerk does not need PPE. So what you wear depends on the task that you're doing. That's the wisest way to do this. It is a way of giving people what they need to be safe and also conserving these important resources for the places where they're truly needed.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Something else that I was wondering about is whether the return of the K-8 students will be staggered in some way. And I don't need the details, but I remember that in one of our briefings, we talked about that was part of, or whether everybody will be expected to return to schools on February 8th, if everything else is in place to allow this.
If everything else is in place to allow this, that cluster of students K through 8th grade will be returning on that same week.
Okay, and they'll will they be in pods? I mean, like in alternating, or they'll be there every day of the week?
It will be in pods, hybrid.
Okay.
As we did, the same as we discussed earlier.
Okay. That's very, very helpful. Another thing that I wanted to ask about was the testing, and there's new things that are coming up all the time, and we may have a different even quick test by the time that this is scheduled to happen. So are we planning and setting aside funds to make, because that will make a huge difference, I think, in keeping everybody safe, students, families, teachers. So any thoughts on how the testing may evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm actually hoping that by January, the BinaxNOW cards will have more data and that they'll be approved for home self-collection if they're good enough, because the supply we got would put us in a really good place to support this plan. So I'm actually, there should be no difference for a rapid test that's based on an antigen between the BinaxNOW and anything else that comes out, unless we find out that one is superior to another.
Okay.
And in that case, we'd have to make a decision. And in infectious diseases, we sometimes choose different tests based off of whether people are asymptomatic or symptomatic. And this is one of those cases. So it could be that we still choose to go with the Binax test for the purpose that we're doing it, depending on what data comes through. But I'm actually hoping that the use of this could be expanded so it's actually easier for teachers to do. That would be the best case scenario. And I think that might be, or that could be a reality, just based off what the FDA is approving and the technologies that have come out already.
My last question is to our health experts, and it has to do with something that Chief McDade called attention to, the disparities that the pandemic has made so visible. In this case, the different communities have very different positivity rates. Does that play a role in our plans to reopen hopefully in the new year?
Do you mind if I take that one first, CPS, just from a CDPH standpoint? Is that okay?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So this is a discussion that that Dr. Arwady and I talk about, the commissioner and I talk about. And there are two things that sort of factor into this. One, the students in the CPS system don't typically come from the zip code or the community area that the school is located in. So there would be no real way to control that on a hyper-local level. And then second, we really do we feel like Chicago is slightly different than some other cities, and that we do see, we don't want to start making rules for one area that another one doesn't have to follow, because it would falsely send the message that these other areas don't need to follow the same rules. And we really feel strongly that that's not the message we want to send. We all want to be in this together because we all affect each other. And we cross over in so many different ways that we don't realize. And we need everybody doing their part, teachers, students, people on the train, people on the bus. And we don't want to stigmatize any one neighborhood, because a lot of the neighborhoods that are having the most problems are essential workers. And we find it, and healthcare workers, and we don't want to stigmatize them because of the important work that they're doing. So that's sort of some of the considerations that we've made. We're watching what's happening in New York, because they are doing some of that neighborhood by neighborhood. Yeah, and we just don't feel like Chicago is equivalent to New York City in the same way, based on how much we travel. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and it was not my intention to stigmatize any neighborhood or group. Contrary, I think that it is that the unequal positivity rates are not due to carelessness of the people who reside in those communities. There are other variables associated with the structural racism that make those positivity rates so high.
Thank you for asking the question.
Sure. Thank you for your answer. And I,
Melendez, any other questions
uh,
from Member Melendez?
no, I've monopolized, the floor.
No, members take all the time you need. There's nothing more important than what we're talking about right now. Any other members with questions or comments? Yes, Member Sotelo.
Thank you, President Del Valle. I just want to follow up. Obviously, thank you for all of you. Dr. Morelli, appreciate you jumping in to give us your perspective. And I appreciate your honesty about the difficulty in understanding the different metrics and what do we need to do to ensure that we keep the entire community safe with the latest information we have possible. And that will always continue to evolve. And I certainly hope that the latest information we have possible starts to see some positive trends given the positive news that we're starting to see from all the different pharmaceuticals about their success that they're having, and hopefully accelerates that to make it easier. In the meantime, we still have a hybrid challenge in front of us, as we've just seen with the data on both the current environment as well as what we're seeing with the grades, what we're seeing with the attendance. So I actually, and we have a responsibility to try our best efforts to do something about it, right? And I appreciate the initial view of the data that Latanya shared with us and the additional due diligence. I'm actually going to pose this question to Tia, because I really enjoyed your probe that you said there, because it is about the students, and I'm glad we have a student voice, and we need to encourage others as well. But what was your question behind your question about the inclusion of a high school assessment and why? And I care more about the why. So I'd like to kind of probe a little bit further there to ensure that we're also taking that into account in this process.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So I guess I asked that question just kind of in regards to what I've been hearing from my peers and kind of the thoughts I've had myself. Online school can be a bit overwhelming at times, just with like the 8 hours on the screen plus homework, etc. And obviously, we can't exactly stop that process because we do have to learn, and the education has been top notch and hasn't really changed from, I guess, school. Just it is a different environment and different like avenue of learning. But a lot of people are feeling like mental health challenges, I guess, in that sense, with school. And I just think that as a district, it's important to recognize that. And as being the honorary student board member, I wanted to uplift those voices of those who can be here today to ask those questions themselves.
Thank you.
Member Sotelo, did you have another question?
No, not at this point, because I know we're going to try to solve for it, and I know we have the whole intentions, but I really wanted to get that voice from Tia as to the why behind it's so important what we're trying to do and assess.
Certainly. Member Roan, you have a question?
I don't. My question was about the metrics, and I think we've covered it.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure we get everyone in here.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Dr. Jackson, do you want to close this section?
Yeah, that concludes the rest of the presentations for today. So thank you for your time and your questions.
Okay. Thank you, board members. There are no additional questions or comments regarding these items. Well, we're going to proceed to open up the floor on the public agenda items. Are there any other questions or any questions or comments regarding the public agenda items? regarding the public agenda items. Now, we'll proceed with the vote on the public agenda items. Madam Secretary, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will begin with items on the public agenda, read the board report numbers and brief titles. These items do require a vote. We will begin with P01, and for the record, Mr. President, I would like to note that P01 will be withdrawn from the agenda, and this is the new Student Online Personal Protection Act SOPA policy, so that one will be withdrawn from the agenda. Moving on to the board reports that require the vote, we have EX1, which is the transfer of funds. EX2 is the amendment to the Chicago International Charter School agreement, and this amendment is necessary to authorize the voluntary closure of the Chicago International Charter School Chicago Quest North Campus at the end of the 2021 school year by mutual consent of the parties. We then have PR1, Mr. President. This is the report of award of construction contracts and changes to construction contracts for the Board of Education's Capital Improvement Program. PR2 is to authorize the first and second renewal agreement with Carahsoft Technology for identity and access management services. PR3 is to authorize the first and second renewal agreement with Ballot School Solutions for student information system software, hosting, maintenance, and support services. We then have PR4. This is to authorize a new agreement with CDW Government LLC and SHI International Corp. For software products and services. We then have PR5. This is to authorize the second renewal agreement with Healthcare Service Corporation. And then, Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Rome,
Yes.
Member Melendez,
Yes.
Vice President Reveluri,
Yes.
Member Tad Breland,
Yes.
Member Truss,
Yes.
Member Sotelo,
Yes.
and President Del Valle.
Yes.
We have 7 ayes, 0 nays. These matters are adopted by the board with the noted withdrawal of PO1. I'll continue, Mr. President, with additional items on the public agenda that do not require a vote. We have FN1. It's the Chief Financial Officer report for October 2020 on the Emergency Authority. PR6 is the Chief Procurement Officer report for September 2020 on the Delegated Authority. EX3 is the report on principal contracts new. EX4 is the report on principal contract renewals. And AR1 is the report on board report rescissions. Mr. President, these items just need to be accepted by the board.
Please mark received and filed.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are no further items on the public agenda.
Okay, we will now proceed with the vote on executive session items. Madam Secretary, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue with executive session items from the General Counsel, and these items do require a vote. The first report is to appoint Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law for James D. Mackey. The second report authorized continued retention of the law firm Ice Miller LLP. The third report authorized continued retention of the law firm Neal and Leroy LLC. The fourth report is workers' compensation payment for lump sum settlement for John Beckles, case number 15 WC 20878. The fifth report is the workers' compensation payment for lump sum settlement for Eileen Du Bois, case number 16 WC 023119. The sixth report is workers' compensation payment for lump sum settlement for Stella Purdy, case number 14 WC 015058. Moving on to the seventh report, we have approved settlement of Michael Bayer contract principal dismissal case and related litigation. And for the record, Mr. President, I would like to note an abstention for board member Rome on the settlement of Michael Bayer. I will continue with the eighth report. This is to approve payment of proposed settlement regarding JW. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Rome,
Yes.
with the noted abstention on the Michael Byer settlement. Thank you. Member Melendez,
Yes.
Vice President Reveluri,
Yes.
Member Todd Breland,
Yes.
Member Truss,
Yes.
Member Sotelo,
Yes.
and President Del Valle.
Yes.
We have 7 ayes, 0 nays, and the 1 abstention noted for Member Rome on the Michael Bayer settlement. Thank you. Mr. President, I'll continue with items from the board, and these items do require a vote. The first report is the resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss educational support personnel. The second report is the resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation for a probationary appointed teacher. And for the record, I would like to note that on November 13, 2020, the board members and the office of the board received the CEO's recommendation to dismiss a probationary appointed teacher pursuant to Board Rule 4-1 and 105 ILCS 5/34-84. Her recommendation included the name of the teacher affected and the reason. She also noted that the teacher affected will be notified of their dismissal after adoption of the resolution. And the third report, Mr. President, is the resolution authorizing the honorable termination of a regularly and certified appointed teacher. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second the motion?
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Rome,
Yes.
Member Melendez,
Yes.
Vice President Reveluri,
Yes.
Member Todd Breland,
Yes.
Member Truss,
Yes.
Member Sotelo,
Yes.
and President Del Valle.
Yes.
We have 7 ayes, 0 nays, and these matters are adopted by the board. Mr. President, I believe that Vice President Reveluri has a motion, please.
I move that the record of proceedings of the regular board meeting of October 28th, 2020, prepared by the board secretary, be approved, and that such records of proceedings be posted on the Chicago Board of Education website in accordance with Section 2.06B of the Open Meetings Act.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Rome,
Yes.
Member Melendez,
Yes.
Vice President Reveluri,
Yes.
Member Todd Breland,
Yes.
Member Truss,
Yes.
Member Sotelo,
Yes.
and President Del Valle.
Yes.
We have 7 ayes, 0 nays, and this motion is adopted by the board. And Mr. President, we have one real estate item from executive session, and this item does require a vote. It is for board report approve entering into an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for the lease of land for construction of the new Belmont Cragen School and the shared use of athletic facilities at Reese Park. Mr. President, this item does require a vote.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Rome,
Yes.
Member Melendez,
Yes.
Vice President Reveluri,
Yes.
Member Todd Breland,
Yes.
Member Truss,
Yes.
Member Sotelo,
Yes.
and President Del Valle.
Yes.
We have 7 ayes, 0 nays. This matter is adopted by the board. And Mr. President, there are no further items on the executive agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes. Member.
just real quick, I just want to thank the Board of Education staff for the card that was sent. And just let them know that they turned me into a 200+ pound teddy bear. Thank you for the personal comments. And thank you to the staff for, the work you put in to keep us informed and well-versed in terms of the different issues and challenges. Just want to acknowledge, it seems like we should be the ones sending you guys cards and flowers. But I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you very much. You should see my wife had to give me some tissue to fight back the tears.
You're not the only one.
Same here.
Thank you, Member Truss. And I just want to add that my 86-year-old mom who lives with me, the card brought a smile to her face. So thank you, staff. Very thoughtful. I also want to, before we close, say that we lost a great leader, Maria Celda, who served on the Board of Education when I was a very young fella. She was an aggressive, strong advocate on the board for bilingual education and for kids in general. She was the first Latina appointed to the Chicago Board of Education. So people like me who have come long after she did have stood on her shoulders. I want to say to her husband, David Celda, who is, I think, still in the hospital, dealing with COVID also. I say to him that we certainly wish him well and want certainly Judge Celda to recover. But I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledged the great contributions that Maria Celda made to the city of Chicago. So thank you. Any other closing comments or statements from board members? Okay, if not, thank you all board members for the countless number of hours that you put into dealing with this Board of Education. I know that we have some difficult days ahead of us. There are a lot more difficult days ahead of us. Some would ask, well, how much harder can they get? Yeah, they probably will get harder. But I appreciate all of you hanging in there and putting, again, the countless numbers of hours that you do in reviewing all the material that comes before us. For the public, I know we go through this public agenda quickly, and it seems like the votes are quick votes, but every item on the public agenda is studied very carefully by each board member, and each board member is briefed on every item. And so by the time it comes down for us to vote, we have had all, if not most of our questions answered. So please don't think that this is just a routine kind of matter. We're just rubber stamping. This board questions every single item. I thank you for that. Okay. So having said that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.